Okay, I think everything looks good. Now we just need some viewers. But yeah, no, that's totally awesome.
That
We're
is
all so close. I think Portland's maybe like a 12-hour drive from me. I've been there once.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
You're like middle of California, right?
yeah. I'm like maybe an hour and a half from San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Are
like
you north or south of San Francisco?
I'm like kind of between San Francisco and Sacramento. So a little
Oh,
bit
I know where you're at then.
northeast.
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
you're like towards like Sonoma, like going towards like Vallejo, like that direction, right?
Kind of.
Okay, I have an idea then, because I'm originally from California, so I'm very familiar with what you're describing of like what's north and south of everything.
Hi guys.
Well, hello.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to yeah, kind of like in the direction of Dublin.
Oh, okay, yeah, I definitely know what area.
Yeah. And
All
Sierra's
right.
here. Yeah. Hi everyone. What?
How is
Liz
that said? Is that said Siwa?
Liz Germs
Yes.
and B.
Yawa.
Hi
Oh,
guys.
Spicy
Siwa.
salad.
Got
Yawa.
it.
Oh,
That's
thank you. I made it.
Oh, you made that?
I
Nice.
did.
Oh, that's so
It-
cute.
Yeah. Jumping into post breakups, I got really into just doing like more of my art stuff. So last summer, this whole room was empty and covered in tarps, and this was like my paint room, and I was painting t-shirts.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that.
Wild.
All the beautiful
Yeah.
people in my life in one stream. Ah, I love you, Nettie. Y'all cameras look great.
Oh, hi, Nettie.
Is there a wild Nettie Dorco in the chat?
There is a wild Nettie Dorco in the chat.
Yay.
Where's my
Nettie, you won't
Pokeball?
believe it, but actually,
How do we sound?
Uh,
Do we sound okay?
Daddy Norco.
Tim is here to troll.
oh my god.
Tim.
Plays dirty sighing. I like this topic. It resonates.
Keep it-
Oh, that's good, Parchukio. I hope we help you. In
Plains
some
the
way.
Wanderer. Close, Nettie.
Plains the Wanderer.
No, there's a difference. There's a difference.
I'll keep
I know it's all
Tim in check.
semantics, but there is a difference.
Thank you, Colette.
You were so close yet again, Nettie. You forgot the extra ER at the end, but thank you.
Nettie Proco.
Appreciate it.
Ban Parchukio, no.
Colette. I see you, Colette, in the chat.
There
Who
it
else in
is.
here?
I
Tim,
like
go
my-
away.
Oh my gosh.
Excellent.
Hi, Gabby. That's my sister, Miss X Gabby. Say hi.
Oh, shout out to the family in the room.
Yeah. Bye, Tim. Everyone just ignore Tim.
Everybody just ignore him. It's fine.
Ignore
big
that
deal.
one person.
Okay.
Okay. You guys
Was that a
wanna-
Corona, Liz?
Yeah.
Nice.
Aw, Sierra, I love you. Isn't Sierra so
Black
cute?
Oh,
She
thank
has
you.
like such a cute room.
I
And
want
wasn't
that
sure if I
Twitch
should.
She
Hello.
herself is super cute.
Thank you, Amazon.
Oh, thanks. Dee.
I'll
Oh,
have to turn my
where'd Ian
camera down for a
go?
little bit. Hold on, I have to turn my camera for a little bit. Putting eye drops in.
Black
Oh,
love.
okay.
We're beautiful people. Happy
Aw.
Sunday.
Thank you for Pachikio.
Okay.
Plays an Ian, of course, looking good too.
Oh yeah, thank you. I was more confused about. I thought I heard a familiar voice, and
Okay.
I think I'm just hearing things.
Let's get where is
Hallucinating.
it? We'll get some. Where is it? Did I pass it? Oh, here. We'll get some Plains hair checks emotes.
Oh
in
gosh.
here.
I miss you too, Nettie.
There it
Nettie,
is.
I started another run through of Overcooked 2 on my Switch with my other friend.
Oh, Overcooked.
Ooh.
Good
Oh, hold on. Let
stuff.
me put some light music on. I was like, wait a minute, it's so silent.
You should use Pretzel.
Pretzel? Is that the website?
Mhm.
Pretzel
Yeah, it's
rocks.
Yes. App.pretzel.rocks or something like that.
Pretzel.
Do you actually have to sign up for that, or is it just available?
It's just available. I was able to use it for free.
Oh,
That's cool.
play in
I use
browser.
Monster
know.
Cat, so
I know now that Twitch has been cracking down.
right, and that came out of nowhere. Everybody was just
I know,
blindsided
it's
by
just
that. I
like,
feel like.
I need to go through my clips because I'm sure there's music in like every single one.
Yup. I got a little loose with it too because I kept seeing everybody else listening to like normal music and stuff, and so I was like, okay, I'll
Big
pull up some of the
streamer.
stuff I like. Let's do this. And then they started cracking down, and all of a sudden I was like, oh crap.
Big Twitch partners were listening to like big artists on stream. And so
Oh,
I was just like, it's fine, like I can do it too. So I haven't gotten a
yeah.
strike, but I don't want one.
Yeah, I don't want one either.
Yeah, Nettie
Yeah.
was wondering about like Just Dance.
Yeah, I mean, you're
I
not
don't know
safe.
for certain, but I think the games are technically okay because you're paying for, once you've paid for the game and you've paid for the content of the game, they've already paid the other parties what's necessary. So, but I don't know for sure because I really want to do Beat Saber, and if they take that away from me,
Yeah, Joker in the chat, he said that he got something muted for like a very specific gunshot sound in GTA.
Are you
It was
serious?
just- yeah,
What the
so who knows?
okay
It's
then.
wild. You'd think with Just Dance though, where that is like the point of the game is the music.
Especially like Twitch Sings. Well, I guess Twitch Sings isn't the official
Oh.
songs though. Take Beat Saber away from planes.
Jesus, this is a positivity space. Don't make me beat the positivity out of you
Oh,
because you're not
Fluffy.
giving it to us.
Fluffy, it's okay. Feel
It's okay,
better.
Fluffy.
That's simple.
Yeah, I hope you're feeling all right. Dang.
No worries, Fluffy.
Yeah, maybe next time. Hi, Livleen.
This is a series now. There'll be chances.
Okay,
I
is
know,
the
I'm
music
so
too loud
excited
or
that
is
you're
it
doing
fine?
this.
Key says it's positive that they need to take Beat Saber away from you planes.
All
can't
right,
hear
so
the music
Keezus
at
is
all?
here to troll today.
Super low. Okay, well, I want it to be super low. Is it? Should I make it louder?
I think you got it at a good volume for exactly what we're trying to do here. So
Okay, this is good. Twitch said that most games having music do not get a pass. Specifically, does not have licensed music. Oh, damn.
GTA specifically does not have licensed music, and you cannot get a copyright strike. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Wow.
That's good to know. I imagine games like Just Dance and Beat Saber though might fall into the category of having licensed the music for their game and such.
You
But
would think.
you would think. We'll have to look into it.
See, don't be mean to Fluffy.
Oh boy.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. If you guys have any stories that you want to share, go ahead and post. Yeah, and then we'll have a Q&A towards the end, so that way we can go over questions that were asked previously and then like during the stream. But okay, we'll go ahead and start. So I'm Lizzie, as you guys probably know, or to any new people, I'm Lizzie. And here we have the beautiful Sierra Shares, Just Soulful, and Planeswander. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Go in order.
I'm Sierra. Sierra Shares. I work for a toy company for my full-time job, and then I also stream on Twitch and do art, graphic design, pretty much everything.
Planes next.
Okay. I'm Planeswander, aka Kenny, and I work in IT for the real-time job, but I am trying to be a part-time streamer, so here I am.
Shouts to Kenny. Shouts to Sierra. Hi everyone. My name's Ian, or Just Soulful. I actually work as a program manager for an equity center on a college campus. In real life, I do Twitch streaming, just kind of like a spur of the moment, kind of fun thing to interact with folks. And yeah,
Yay.
All right.
Well, I'm so glad to have you guys here. Thank you so much for being here. So, Plains, you have a disclaimer.
Yes. So just so everybody is aware, and we're covering ourselves here, this podcast is represents the opinions of Liz, myself, and the guests of the Positivity Podcast. These are the content here should not be taken as medical advice. We are not therapists, psychiatrists, the people that do all that mind stuff. The content here is informational purposes only. We're going to share our experiences and hope that it will help everybody else kind of be able to use our life experiences in a way that will hopefully benefit them as also. So each person's unique. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. We do not have the ability to take care of that for you.
Yes, perfectly said. Okay, so this is a positivity podcast. I do this monthly. Plays is my co-host, and every month I want to have some guests to join us. And so this month's episode is embracing being single. So during this podcast, or during this episode, we'll be going through topics like benefits to being single, learning to love and depend on yourself, and finding intimacy within friendships. So we'll be covering those topics throughout the podcast. So we're gonna save our Q&A towards the end, but I do want to start with one question that we've been asked. And so that question is, what bad breakups have you guys gone through and how did you handle them? And I wanted us to kind of cover this question first, so that way you guys know, you guys, let's see, how do I say this? You'll see where we're coming from. We're not just people who are just making up stuff or, acting like we know everything. We actually have all been through shit and we have our own stories to tell. And I think if you hear them, because when I was going to tell my story, I was going to only kind of focus on what happened after the breakup. I was just going to kind of only slightly cover what the actual breakup and then kind of focus on what happened afterwards. But I think it is good for you guys to hear how the actual breakup happened. It was some tough shit, and I think it would kind of make you be able to relate better if you knew what we went through. So we'll kind of go through that first before we kind of delve into the other topics. So do you guys want to go first?
I'd be happy to start. Yes, Indy, I am the co-host. Look at me now. So for me, to kind of give my experience of how I handled my breakup, I was in a relationship for 9 years, and in the beginning, things as they usually are seemed just fine. We were happy; it was good stuff. But there were everybody's trials and tribulations that they might go through. Things seemed relatively normal, but there just kind of reached a point where it was I had this so much better in my head earlier, but there was just kind of a point that was reached where the dynamic and the feelings shifted in a way where I didn't realize that everything wasn't fine, but there was suddenly a disconnect that we started to experience, and getting through it was a little tough as far as trying to maintain and rebuild, wanting to help and grow from whatever the problems were that we could identify and figure out. But one of the big things that I know we're going to get into and talk about quite a bit is how communication was super important, and that doesn't necessarily just reserve itself to your life in a relationship, but just with your friends, your family, and the people around you as a whole. Communicating is what was key to a little bit of where my relationship fell apart. Um, and so for where things started to kind of fall apart for me was I don't know, it was probably about year 6. And so the reason I mentioned that, because it was a 9-year relationship for me, it's important to know when things are starting to fall apart as well, because I spent another 3 years of my life trying to mend something that it wasn't possible for me to mend it. It wasn't possible for us to mend it because she had made up her mind, and no matter what changes or things that I tried to do to adapt in a way, it wasn't going to matter. It wasn't enough. Which leads me to another important point of what I experienced, which was um, we'll cover this one a little bit more later, I believe, but forcing yourself to feel something um, is not the way to go. If you want to really experience something that is truly a genuine and growth worth experience, forcing yourself into something is where you're already going to have a bad time, because if you force it, it wasn't really necessarily meant to be, at least from my vantage point, right? I look at it as if I had to push myself into it, especially in terms of relationship, then it probably means that the other side of that party is also probably feeling some sort of pressure to fall in line with that. So you never really want to force yourself. And that was something that I recognized that I did, like, kind of as a post reflection to my relationship, was that I had forced myself into that relationship in a way where I pursued it harder than should have been necessary for what should have been good. So anyways, to kind of get to the end there, for me, um, as soon as everything kind of fell apart and I realized what happened, we were just drifting a lot, and there was a really long period of months where there was just no intimacy, there was no empathy. Like, things just started to get to, every time I would talk to her, it would be met with an I don't care kind of attitude. And I wasn't picking up on it for some reason. Like, I just kept trying to make it work. And once we finally got to the point where it was like, okay, this is it, it's over. The very first thing that I did was I just started to think, okay, this is finally it. This is where we're at. We're done. And now it's just me. And rather than that being a daunting, holy crap, I'm alone thought, which, a lot of people will probably fall into. That's normal. But for me, it was like, here I am, realizing that I'm alone, and instead of leaning into the I'm really upset and sad about this, it was like, what can I do for myself now? Because I haven't had the ability to do this. And then I just immediately started picking up books and things that I never really had the opportunity to do while I was in my relationship, and things that weren't there for me before. And I started to realize that I needed to just do all the best self-care that I could, because I was feeling better knowing that at this point I can focus on myself and start to fix the problems that I know that I have, so that I can be better prepared for next time. But at the same time, getting myself in order so I knew that I was put together enough to experience it again. So that's my answer.
Thank you for sharing, plans. Do one of you guys want to go, or do you want me to go?
I can go ahead and go next if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it's funny because this experience, like, this was only maybe, God, this is like 2016, so like mid 2016. So I had just moved for graduate school. I was gonna start a master's program. A friend of mine set me up with one of their friends they've known for a while, and we were talking to each other, getting to know each other, dating, whatnot. And then there was a point where we entered a relationship, and then we took a step back because then she was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this." And I was like, "All right, cool, fair game, right?" And then got to the point where we were still talking to each other, right? And then I remember vividly, like one night, it was like a no, let's see, what was it? Yeah, it was a Sunday night. We had just had coffee that morning. She had told me like, hey, you know, like I just got home, like gonna go to church and I'll meet with you later. I was like, all right, cool, like sounds good. Just got home. The night before, like, because we follow each other on social media, I was like, wait, normally this, like, you don't drink wine. I'm pretty sure that's not your house. Like, why do I have this odd feeling like in the back of my gut right now? I was like, there's no way this could be what I think is happening right now, right? And so the next day, right, like after we had our coffee, it's nighttime, right? All the other stuff that I told you before, we talk on the phone again. She's like, and then like for some reason, like this just comes out of their mouth of like, hey, you know how I told you, like I just got home that morning, like yeah, I was at someone else's house and like I cheated on you. And I was like, whoa, like hold on, like this can't be real. And I was going through this motion of like, there's no way this happened to me, right? There's no way this happened to me. This can't be real. This whole like denial of reality in the situation in that moment. And so like for a hot minute, I was just like I was speechless. And so the next day comes, I have to go to school. I have to go to work because I'm also working part time at the moment. And I'm just like in my head, in my feels, crying, like all the above. Every person I talk to, that's the first thing that comes out of my mouth. Like, talk to my supervisor about it, and he was like, "Yo, like, are you good? Right? Like, everything okay?" And I told him what happened, and like this whole piece around just like, you know, people will hurt you in many different ways, and don't let that be a reflection of you, because it wasn't about you in that moment. Right? It was about them and their priorities and things that they were going through. And so the way I coped with it, with that whole situation, was honestly like drawing boundaries around like, hey, like this is about like the person in question tried to still be my friend after, and to me, and I was like, I don't think you have that right anymore, because you harmed me in this moment, and so to draw my boundaries, like I had to stay away from you. um I think on top of that too was realizing like this isn't my fault, like this isn't something about me, it's more about that person. Like I am not the person who caused the harm. I'm the person who has been harmed. And so within those pieces, right, I had to really look at myself. I think to what Plains was saying earlier was like, what parts of me do I need to heal and unlearn, and to learn something new, right? That's better for me, so that when I do want to experience this again, I'm able to experience it in a much fuller manner. So I'm not bringing whatever I experienced, that mistrust, that those feelings of anxiety, whoever person I'm seeing again or after is gonna take up, because they don't deserve that, right? Because that's not the relationship that me and that person will build versus the relationship I built with the other person. And so for a long time, I would say about a year, 2 years or so, I didn't really date anyone, because I was feeling that, you know what, this is an opportunity and time for me to work on myself, to really figure out like what it is that I need and want in a relationship, and also too like forget what my boundaries are, what my standards are, because when people don't meet those, like that's also disrespecting myself when I choose them. Because if they're not meeting my needs and my wants, there's no way like I'm not gonna feel like I can be in this relationship in that way. So all in all, like coping in it was a hard process, because for a long time I felt, am I not worthy of like a partner who's gonna treat me right? And that in itself was so like yes, I am worthy of that. I just gotta find the person who's willing to give that to me, and I'm also gotta be willing to give that to myself too. So I know what I want and I need from a potential partner. I know there's a lot there.
No, it's fine. I want you guys
No.
to share as much as you feel comfortable with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Let you go last. So I'm Sierra. I was most recently, relationship-wise, in a 5-year relationship. We broke up last May, and that was super difficult. We had been living together for 6 months. We were both like pretty young, relatively young. It's a good chunk of life when you're young, 5 years. But it was difficult because, like Plains mentioned, it's like a long time coming. So how I describe it is like a slow and painful breaking of the heart, just because we had tried to fix things, and you know, things had been articulated. It was like I had articulated that certain behaviors and stuff like that I didn't like, and tried to set those boundaries for myself, and it was always like, oh, I'll keep trying, and it really just got to the point where I was lowering my expectations, and I just didn't think that thoughtful people existed. It was kind of like, you know, making all your desires totally known. So it wasn't like, oh, he didn't get me something for Valentine's Day. It was just like, oh, I said like, hey, do you want to get me, like, if you want to get me something, because we've been together for a while, I'm like, if you want to get me something, bath bombs and a face mask. And then it was just like nothing. And then same thing for our anniversary, and I was just like, this person is so not thoughtful to me. And I think that I knew that in my head, but didn't think I deserved more attention than that, or thought I was asking for too much. But like, what finally kind of snapped me out of it was I was at a work convention, 2 separate work conventions last May, and people were just being so nice to me, just strangers being nice to me, just being me on like a friendly basis. And I'm like, where has this affection been from my significant other, like the person that I'm living with? And it was one of those things where I didn't realize until after the fact, just like, oh, this was probably like worse than I let myself believe. Because when we had the conversation, like, I said, hey, I don't think this is gonna work, like, I think we should break up. He was able to fit all of his belongings in one tiny car and leave like he was never here. And I was just like, that's kind of bizarre. And then I found out afterward he was still paying for his like old room in a different city, like even after we had moved in together. So yeah, after that it was just kind of like, I'm gonna take all this time and focus it back into me, like trying to make myself thrive instead of trying to like manifest this life for this person and I that wasn't going to work out. Like, put those energies in myself and just see where that takes me. And that's just like the path that I've been on for this past year. Yeah, sorry that was a lot and not necessarily the most coherent, but
No, you're
it's
totally
hard
fine.
to like boil down relationships into
It is. Don't worry. I've kind of had to like
like
go over my story several times. So no, you're totally fine. But yeah, you're really strong to like know that, you know, it was over and to move on.
a lot of little things, but
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
As a side note, I'm just loving chat right now. I don't know if y'all are watching it, but
Oh,
these
I've been
people are-
watching it.
These people are great.
Oh, we love you guys. I know you guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Okay, so my story. Let's see. So I've only been in one serious relationship in my life, and that was pretty much more than half my entire life. Like, we were together from when I was a teenager all the way to 2 years ago. So it was a really long time, and that was like a really like big breakup. Like, I'm not exactly sure when we started kind of like falling out of love. I think definitely towards the end, like, we had just been together for so long that we had issues. We didn't really fight too often, but we did have issues. But I never like got to a point where I was like, you know what, like, I can do better than this. I think I just put up with everything because we were married. We had 2 kids. Like, I never expected to like go through the rest of my life without him. It was like a given. Like, no matter what went on between us, like, I always thought that he would always be there. Like, it was supposed to be the rest of my life. So I was content. Like, I mean, I don't know. There were definitely some things like I wished I could change about the relationship, but I just took it for what it was because that's how life was. Um, so one day I came home from work early and I caught him on the webcam talking to another girl. And like, I knew that he had started gaming with this other girl and that they had become really close friends and stuff. Like, they gamed together a lot, and I didn't care. Like, he was allowed to have friends, but the fact that he like was trying to hide it from me, because I was like, "Who are you talking to?" and he did not want to tell me, and he was trying to hide it. And like, if he had just told me the truth, like, I wouldn't have cared. But once I saw that he was hiding it, I knew there was something going on. And I'm like, "So what is this? Do you like not want to be with me anymore?" And so basically he admitted that he did grow close to her and like had fallen in love with her. Um, but that it wasn't about her, that he had been depressed for the last couple years, which I hadn't known. He never told me he felt that way. He was just really good at hiding it. And he even admitted he was good at hiding it. Um, and that he hadn't been happy in the last couple years, and that he just like no longer wanted to be with me. And so like there were some things that he told me that he wasn't happy with about me, and like there were things that he brought up during fights, and there were things I brought up during fights, and like we didn't change those things. Like, they were just things that we use against each other when we were fighting. But I didn't know that those things were actually like serious. Like, I didn't like he never sat me down and was like, I need these things to change, or else like, this isn't going to work anymore. And so like I didn't see it coming at all, and I'm like, well, can we try fixing this? Like, now that we know, now that this is out in the open, like, can we try making it work? And he was like, no, like, I don't want to become complacent again. Like, I don't want to give it a try, and like, things are good for the first while, but like a couple years later, here I am like back in the same position. He's like, I need a change. Like, I can't do this anymore. And so he didn't want to try anymore, and he said that he wanted to separate. And so I definitely had a lot of trouble letting go. I didn't want things to change. I didn't want to lose him. And so even though he had fallen for another girl, like, I still wanted him to stay. And I asked him, like, can you just still stay here? And like, like, we'll figure things out. Like, just save up money. Just don't leave yet. And those 2.5 months, like, were pretty much torture. Like, I was torturing myself. I slept a lot. I drank a lot. Like, I was so depressed. Like, I can't believe it's 2.5 months, because it went by so fast. But like, I just slept and drank a lot of it away. And like, I basically had to be at home with him, talking to her on the phone every night and gaming with her, calling her baby. And I just kind of had to listen to that every single night. And I just played music to kind of like, not listen to that. And there were a couple of times where he kind of like flipped back and forth between us. And he would tell me that he wanted to, like, he would just cry and like tell me, I make a mistake. Like, I do want to work things out with you. And like, things would go back to normal for like a day, or like we'd pretend like it was back to normal. It would be like lovey. And then like, he would tell her that he wanted to stop it with her and break up with her. And she would dig her claws into him and manipulate him. And like, he'd tell me, you know what, actually, I do want to like be with her. And that happened 3 times. And the third time, like, I was just like, I don't believe you anymore. Like, like I don't believe you. Like, go ahead and say that, but I'm pretty sure you're just gonna go back to her. I didn't tell him that, but that's what I thought. And I was just tired of like the anxiety, because every time like he said that he'd come back to me and want to be with me, like, I just felt so much anxiety afterwards, because I felt like it wasn't gonna happen. So one night I went to the bar with my friends, and one of my friends was like, why haven't you kicked him out yet? And I was like, well, I just want him to stay for like the good times, for when we do hang out and like, just spend time together. And he's like, but is it worth it? And I was like, you know what? Like, it isn't worth it. And so I came home that night and I asked him to move out, to find a place and move out, because I didn't want to do it anymore. And so like a week or so later, he packed his stuff and he moved out. And like, that was like the most freeing moment. Like, I felt so much relief. I felt so happy. Like, it was so weird. like he's moving out, and I just felt so happy. After he moved, or after he left, I packed up all his clothes, like packed up like whatever stuff he left here. I like went through the closet, went through the dresser, just put all his clothes in a bag, and like I took over the room, I took over my bedroom, I took over my closet. Like the whole house was mine, like everything was mine, and it was so cool, like knowing that I could do whatever I wanted and I didn't have to consult with anyone. And like he never was the type to like stop me if I wanted to do something. If I was like, hey, do you want to buy this for the house, or hey, like should we try this or do this, like he'd be like, nah, no, we don't really need to. And so like he never would have stopped me if I wanted to, but I'm a Libra so I'm very indecisive and I depended on his opinion a lot. So I was like, you know what, you're right, like we don't need this. But not having him there, like it was all on me to decide for myself. And like I bought new things for my house, I did whatever I wanted to, and like I ended up loving what I did. Like it was up to me to try new things and not have to like get a second opinion beforehand. So I mean that was totally awesome. Not having to depend on him to do chores and have to nag him to do his chores, that was so freeing because I just do it myself and I don't have to bug anyone and I don't have to like stress out for hours that's not being done. Like I just do it myself and it's done. Like I can move on, and just all of that was so freeing. And then so I hadn't been single since I was a teenager, and I was pretty excited about the like about me being single again, like being able to just go out and meet new people and new guys. So my first little while, definitely I went through that phase of like going on dating apps, like talking to guys. Like every night was just like me reading poetry and like talking to guys, and I'd go on dates, but I don't know, it was fun. I definitely made mistakes that I'm glad that I like went through and learned from. But a lot of it was still me, you know, getting hurt by guys. So that was kind of like my first little part of getting over the breakup. And then last year I kind of focused on like working out, going to the gym, just trying new things, like trying paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboarding, just like getting out there, having as much fun with friends. And this year, like I've had my kids full time since September. Before, like me and my ex would switch off weeks. But I ended up having to take them on full time in September. So I wasn't able to go out a lot more, but then I found streaming. Like I tried streaming and I loved it. And now I'm kind of focused on that. So now being single, like I have the opportunity to just try new things and reinvent myself. And yeah, that's been pretty awesome. And actually, before I finish, I just wanted to share this poem that I wrote like right when the separation happened. Let's see, let me make it bigger. Sorry to block your guys' faces real quick.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me. Okay. So I'm sorry it's really long, but I'll try to read it fast. But she turned 30 years old, surrounded herself with friends and partied, then swept her other half and herself to a new state for the weekend. To do more traveling, more exploring, this is what she expected from her 30s. Just more good times, more adventures, some escaping here and there from the monotony of work, marriage, family. Yes, life was sometimes boring, but she had everything she thought she needed. Husband, kids, money, job, home. She was already in her happily ever after. Not perfect, but she was content. This was the rest of her life, or so she thought. The world began shifting around her. A move, a retirement, a cancer diagnosis, changes in other lives affecting her own. But being left and abandoned by her high school sweetheart, soulmate, only one, was the icing on the cake. Her heart, the family, what didn't he shatter? He didn't take much, but sure left a lot of damage. Her dream of the future dispersed in an instant, her best friend now a stranger, most treasured memories now devoid of emotion. The sidekick became the villain in this story. Prince turned into an evil stepmother. Her life had peaked and she was left to fall. But that's not true. She was forced to adapt and therefore forced to rise. A queen doesn't need a prince or king. There had been pieces of her turn gray, disappearing along with him, leaving holes, which she later came to see as blank slates, that she could now fill with color. Her dream may have been destroyed, but now she was truly awake and could accept everything life had to offer. With open arms, open eyes, no longer just settling, possibilities now endless, her 30s came with a new chapter, and she could write anything in the pages. Okay, sorry.
That's really awesome, Liz.
But
Thanks for sharing, Liz.
thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so I just like felt like that after the separation. I just felt like life, like there's still so much life ahead of me, and there's so many doors that can open. But yes, so that is my story. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go through the different topics. Benefits to being single. I asked on my Instagram what were people's favorite things of being single, and I was able to get a list, and I'll go ahead and list them for you guys, and then you guys can share your favorite things. One person said independence of it all, being able to focus on just me. I love the me time I have because with a significant other, we tend to focus on them and forget ourselves. Not having another person to disappoint, not getting hurt, not having my perception of love ruined again and again. Sleeping as late as I want, can switch phone off without expecting heat from missing calls or texts. Looking at the menu and buying food for two, but it's just for me. The freedom to find myself, introspection, reflection without compromise, having as much time for myself as I'd want, being able to flirt. So those are some answers that we got from people. What about you guys? What are your guys' favorite things about being single?
A lot of those were covered there. I gotta tell you, like those folks that chimed in know a little bit about what's up about being single. I'll say for me, the biggest one was knowing that I was actually kind of freed up. Like, coming out of something that was borderline, if not toxic, coming out of that not into toxicity, and then being able to go, this is me now. I get to do this. I get to make the calls. I get to make the shots. I'm going to start doing the things that I've missed out on doing. And, this being a great example of it, I know some of us, maybe all of us, are here streaming now because we're like, this is something we wanted to do. And for some people, like my ex in particular, she was never very encouraging of it. And so being able to open that door up, having that independence, that's going to be my number one. Being able to do what I want is just a plus.
What about you guys?
Definitely. It's like I didn't realize how limiting to myself that I was being while I was in the relationship. But then it's like being single, it is super scary, and as much as I do miss having that person that's like, they're my person, I'm their favorite, they're my favorite, and being on the same wavelength, like as wonderful as that is, if you don't have that, like trying to find that is, I don't know, it's so much work. It's like, I really haven't been dating around. I went on Bumble for 24 hours, and I'm like, this is like a full-time job trying to like find somebody that you like want to date. So people who just like date around, like I don't get that, but yeah, getting to do whatever I want. And I've had those nights where I'm in the middle of the mattress and I spread out and I'm, oh my gosh, like this is all my stuff, like so I totally get you, Liz, like just being like, this is my space and this is my life and I can do what I want.
Yeah, no, like Sierra, it's those little things that turn to big things for us that just makes such a world of difference. Like, I think Liz, you said one of them was like buying food for two, even though it's really for you. Like, that's definitely one of the things I like, because it's like, oh, all of this food, like, yeah, it's for two people, but it's really just for me. I think the other part too, being single, that I really like is being able to fulfill like my needs, like with other friends where it's just platonic, right? It's like finding depth in that like intimacy in so many different ways with other folks that I love and care about, and then love and care about me. Like, I have some friends that give really awesome hugs that I never got from a partner before, and I'm just like, wow, this is so nice. Like, there's no strings attached. Like, I don't have to feel bad asking for like to have this need be fulfilled. These are folks who just deeply care for me, even in a platonic fashion. So it's really allowed me to deepen like what a friendship looks like, and even translate some of that into like when I find a partner, right? Like, what does that even mean? And like is that a non-negotiable? Is that a negotiable? Like all these other things. But yeah, that would be my favorite thing.
We got some answers in chat. Shopping addiction hits different. No need to deal with toxicity. Making your own choices. I can buy dumb shit with no one to tell me no. Not having the answer to anyone, being able to work on myself is my favorite part. Did I miss any?
Colette mentioned the menu thing, which I also agree with. It's nice to like, not that I'm not the the sharing type, but there was points in time that I remember where I was just like, please don't ask me for some of this. Please don't ask me for some of this. I want this to myself. But and then Keezus just said tucking the homies in goodnight is better than a toxic relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Friendship is love, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna go into that for sure about friendships. Colette said a significant other is not your other half. They're their own person who emphasizes your own self. I definitely agree.
Really good way to put that.
There's been like other people in relationships that were like, oh, like my boyfriend doesn't want me talking to like my guy friends anymore, just stuff like that, or like my girlfriend doesn't want me playing games anymore now that we're together. And it's just like, if you're gonna be in a relationship, you should still be your own person. Like, it's supposed to be two independent people just coming together and merging their lives and not becoming one. It's just becoming like, they're just sharing their lives together. But you shouldn't have to like give up your loves for things in order to be with someone else. And that's like something that's very important about being in a relationship. Because of quarantine, it's been hard not kissing the homies goodnight.
Ah, damn it, Keezus.
Yeah, I do love just like spreading myself out on my bed and just like taking over the whole bed. It's just so comfy. Yeah.
Different. I've cried.
So nice.
Just like
Sure.
spreading out, like hell yeah. Like,
Yeah. And
This is
like
my
I definitely
thing.
made my room a lot more girly. Like I have pink things everywhere and I love my room. Every time I look around my room, I'm like, oh, I love my room so much, and it wouldn't have become this. A lot of the parts in my life that I really love and that I'm happy about, like I wouldn't have had it if it weren't for the separation. Being like we said, we were all pretty young when we got in our relationships, and going into it at such a young age, like I think 20s should be about finding yourself and learning what you love. I think that's like very important about being an adult. And sometimes we just like get into relationships when we're too young and don't even really know what we want. So it's definitely good to know like when it's time to let go. Let's start marrying people in chat again. Don't try me. They're an addiction that's supposed to make you better and help you grow, not controlling or anything. It's more of like changes in your life. Don't change things in your life that you're used to. Yeah, exactly. Like relationships are supposed to motivate you to be better and grow. Like you shouldn't have to lose yourself when you're in a relationship. That's totally the opposite of what it should be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
or it
Okay.
becomes very apparent, like when you're not growing together.
Yeah. Yeah, you really need to grow together, and if you're not and you can't make it work, then it's definitely time to let go. Learning to love and depend on yourself. I mean, that kind of is like what we already talked about. Do you guys have any other things you want to add to that?
Yeah, so as far as like the learning to love and depend on yourself aspect of it, that was something that like I said, I kind of, once I got to the point of where I realized, okay, the things that I got to do for self-help are on me now. I have to motivate myself. I can't rely on my significant other to do that for me. That was something that I was feeling for a while. And actually, just to really briefly touch on another thing that was mentioned a little earlier, I think by Colette, is that sometimes people, I'm going to use the general term here, don't know how to express that they're depressed in a relationship or even outside of it. And being able to be open and honest about that, at least for me, I'm a very logical person, and so, I'm not a Vulcan by any means. I have emotions, and so I will use the logic and the emotion to really reflect and say like, okay, I need to be upfront and honest about this. And so when I was feeling depressed, I let my significant other know at the time, and unfortunately, you know, like trying to suggest that I needed motivation or help, it wasn't clicking for her. And when I finally got to the point that I was no longer with her and everything, it became clear to me that it was like, okay, I can start working on the depression side of me and motivating myself to do the things that I need to get around to doing. And so I picked up a book. I can't remember what it's actually called off the top of my head. Own the Day, Own Your Life, I believe. And it was things to do on a daily basis as well as a continuous basis, habits to form and grow with that were from, you know, simply mental health to diet and exercise. Like it kind of covered the spectrum. And so it felt like, you know, a great thing to just pick up and start working with to, you know, start that self-love that I needed for me because I wasn't getting it before. And so I started, you know, I started getting myself into a mild workout routine on a regular basis, stretching, doing, you know, kind of like yoga, Pilates. Yeah, I don't care. Those are good exercises if if anybody's got a problem with that. But and then going through and kind of changing my dieting habits too, you know, actually like maybe occasionally making my own lunches for work and working on that kind of stuff was really what helped me, you know, having the opportunity rather to get into doing that because I had a new mindset, being able to say, okay, this is up to me, and I'm just gonna make the changes that I've always wanted to make. Those were kind of what helped me bridge that gap and start working on, you know, ignoring the sadness of what felt like loneliness, and then realizing that all the people that are around me are there for me and are supporting me, and I can start working on myself and supporting myself, and those people that are there to support me are my motivators now in a way, when it's not just me, right? So kind of just taking that moment to write down what's going to work for you, and then jumping into it. That's what's really just took off for me.
Yeah, I feel like when you're in a relationship, you just get comfortable. Like, there were a lot of times where, you know, we would just chill on the couch and not really do anything, or I would just like do whatever he wanted to do, or I don't know, we just kind of like we felt comfortable with each other, so we just kind of just we're too comfortable with each other. Like we probably ate too much, just didn't really try new things. Without him being around, I'm forced to like entertain myself, you know, like not just depend on the comfort of him being around, but to actually find out what I like. So it was definitely, you know, definitely so much learning came from that. Um, not having him to not having him to rely on and depend on. You just have to like learn how to depend on yourself and find out what you like. Find things to keep you occupied. Um, find ways to grow on your own. So that definitely is one thing. We have, let's see. I think when you're single, you have to pamper yourself. No one needs to do that for you. Just a small thing that like you doing, just small things that you like doing, like complimenting yourself and doing fun hobbies for yourself is also important when you're single. Says Pertuccio. Fluffy says you have to love yourself first and then the next person. If you aren't okay on your own, that will create an unhealthy codependency with your partner. You will slowly lose your sense of self instead of being two individuals. Yeah, 100%. For sure. What was I gonna say? I forgot the other thing I was gonna say. So you guys go ahead if you have anything to add on.
Yeah, when you're single, I think it's good just to take that time to reflect on like yourself and what you want and like what you bring to the table as a partner, because like I think everyone should love themselves so we all can aspire to be our best selves. And it's like really being honest with yourself, like, am I a healthy person to be in a relationship with? Like, what am I bringing of value to a relationship? And then also being able to see, like, the behaviors you don't want, like, in a partner. Because, like, for me now, I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm babying the person I'm with, or like I'm their mom. And I feel like a lot of young guys, especially like ones that have been living with their families, they just kind of want to go from having their parents take care of them to having like a significant other take care of them. And so it's like, I don't know, I've become very aware of like those toxic traits in people. So
For sure.
it's another reason to stay single.
Yeah. And I think it's good to like learn to love yourself and depend on yourself, because the thing, like, I read a lot of quotes and poems like after the separation that just kind of reminded me, like, you can't force other people to feel certain ways. Like, you can't force other people's thoughts or actions. You can't control other people. Like, you can only control what you do. So if you can't force people to love you, like, if they don't love you, you can't force that. You shouldn't chase after people who don't love you anyways. Like, you know, we're great people. So it's definitely about like not having to depend on other people, just loving ourselves, because we can't just, like, relationships change, people change over time. Like, we just can't fully depend on someone else, because we can't predict what they're going to do. Do you have
A
any?
few more that have...
Oh.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say a few more that popped into chat here real quick, where Parchukio said, find your support group and stick with that, because they will care for you as much as you care for them, and you don't need to expect anything from them. Which is true. Like, we've got a lot of very supportive, very awesome people in our communities and such that, you know, they don't really expect anything in return, but they're there for you. Kat said, if everyone tried to be their best for someone else, relationships would be so much more fulfilling. That's a good goal, Sierra. And I can agree with that too. Is if you're being your best self and bringing that to the table when you're meeting somebody else, and that's going to make your experience way better. And as long as you maintain that, you keep going with it.
Yeah, it's like knowing your worth. Because a few years ago, I had told my therapist, like, oh, I feel boring. And she goes, you're not boring, you're bored. And that's just something that's kind of like stuck with me. It's like, oh, like I'm not a boring person, and I don't think anyone is like inherently boring, but yeah, you're probably just bored, like needing stuff to do. And
That was actually the response I got from my ex, was that I got too boring.
oh shit, like no, not good.
Yep. I'll keep pulling from chat for just another moment here. Fluffy said, when you are single, you can focus on creating something really nice and wholesome for yourself, whatever that may be, or, sorry, chat is moving, or look like it is up to you, but it's important to do, because then whoever you let into your life as an intimate partner must match or be even better than what you built on your own.
Yeah, you want to project your best self, and it's definitely good to find what that is and, like, you know, shine.
I think the... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just reading. Colette said, sometimes it's best to let go of the things you can't control and focus on yourself. Hold on, I'm going to turn on the AC real quick. It's really hot. I'll be right back.
You were going to say something, Ian?
I think the hardest part about like that best self piece is like, what does that look like in the moment sometimes? Seeing there's times and moments where like...
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, dude. Hang on. I'm not sure if Liz actually has audio on her Be Right Back scene. She actually did switch to it.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay. I was like...
Okay. Yeah, she does have audio on. Okay, they said they can hear us. Okay, keep going.
Okay. What was I saying? Oh, that's what I was
What does
saying.
being your best self look like in the moment?
Yeah, I think like, because I feel like the folks that I've talked to and the students I work with, like the best in the moment, like, or being one's best self, they feel like it always has to be like this 100% thing all the time. When in reality, it's not exactly that. Like our best self kind of happens in that moment, and so like, there may be days where our best selves is like literally we just feel like a sack of potatoes and we're just gonna sit there and be a sack of potatoes. And there's days where our best self is like we are thriving in so many different ways. We're being present, right? We're able to care for ourselves and each other, like, and other folks that are important in our lives, you know? And so I think that best self piece is knowing that, like, it's not always going to be the same thing every single time. Like, it's going to be something that's going to be different every single day, and depending on the moment. Like, for myself, like, my best self is, like, in that moment when I'm with that person. If I'm, like, at 80%, awesome. Or if I'm at, like, 30% of, like, being able to pay attention and focus because of just things that are going on in my life, then that's my best self. I think whoever we choose to be with, right, it's knowing how to give care to that person if they're able to give that care. While like I think it's some of the sentiment in this conversation has been like, you know, we don't want to be our parents, or we don't want to be the parent to the other person. It's also being mindful of like, okay, like if the person does need care and I can give that care, right, how do I do that for them? And it kind of goes into like, what are the ways in which we receive care and love in many different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Kiza said something and about someone seeing, tired of seeing someone every day. And I think like with relationships, there's that, well, not with relationships, but there's that saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And I feel like with relationships, when you're seeing someone every day, you do eventually kind of take them for granted, and things that you used to think were cute like become irritating. So once you've been with someone for a longer amount of time, you really do have to focus on working on the relationship and making it feel new constantly, and you really have to work on it. And if it doesn't work, then you gotta know when to let go. But
It's about continuing to show appreciation, not just in like the wooing phase.
yeah,
Especially like if someone has like really dedicated that time and you have built that relationship that is super strong, when you can be your 100% like authentic self with them, then you really need to communicate that you see that and appreciate it. And I think a lot of people in relationships take that for granted and just always expect that person to be there no matter what, and it's like that's what we can hope for. But if you're not expressing gratitude like frequently, I think that's where the contempt comes in.
yeah. There was a book that I read sometime after my separation, and it kind of had to do with, what the heck is that called? What's that thing that I was talking about last time when, like, if you really believe something will happen? I forget what that was. But anyways, it was like a book about gratitude, and it was just like talking about how constantly feeling gratitude and just remembering to be thankful for things like will put you in a better place. And I really thought about that, and it really is important to be grateful for the things that you have and be grateful for the people that you have in your life, because once you stop being grateful for it, then that's when you stop appreciating them, and that's when you don't treat them the way you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Fluffy said, I feel like in general you can't place certain types of responsibilities on your partner. Like, you have to entertain me, you have to keep me happy, you have to this and that. It's a common generalized idea I don't really agree with. So when you're single, make yourself happy. Do friendship for you, and whoever you date will add to it. But yeah, take time while being single to focus on that stuff, because if not, it may mess someone else up who isn't responsible for being your entertainment. Yeah, for sure. You have to learn how to make yourself happy. You shouldn't depend on your partner. You guys should, yeah, exactly what Fluffy said. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any
People
more
are
thoughts?
people are people.
Yeah.
That's something that I ran into with my ex, is like articulating, I'm not a doll to be put on the shelf, just like brought out to play with when it's convenient for you. Because we had a hard time. He worked nights and things like that, so it's like, hey, my life continues to go on even when like we're not in the same room together. And I don't know, some people don't realize that, like, we have to be respectful of each other's time
Hmm.
and not just like treat your partner or your friends like they're there to be like just paying attention to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And one of the things I actually experienced in my relationship as well was, that lack of respect for time, right? There were things, there were goals that I had set for myself. I wanted to be a streamer back in 2015. I just started this year. That was 5 full years later. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that my ex wanted a considerable amount of my time, and I felt obligated to provide that time based on the dynamic of our relationship at the time. So in the end, I never got started until I had officially separated and moved out. And there was a lot of other things. Like I'll admit willingly that school kind of went by the wayside for me too, because I was centering all of my effort on that. And so you can't let dependency be a thing that prevents you from respecting each other's time and letting each other have that independence to do what they need to do. I let myself. I That was a thing that I did to myself. Like I should have known better. I should have worked on trying to make that a priority for myself and saying like the things that would have been necessary at the time to get the job done that I needed to get done. But communication and respecting each other's time and also letting the other person be a person is core concepts here. Like remember these things because it's going to help in any case of being successful if you choose to get yourself back out there.
Yeah. Yeah, when you live with someone, you definitely feel like you should be spending time with them. Sometimes it might not even be the other person, but just the fact that you're in a relationship makes you feel like you should dedicate a lot of your time to them. So being single is nice because you have time to work on yourself only, and you don't have to worry about other people.
I feel like this is where the phrase like quality or quantity comes in. It's like the quality of care and love you show the other person like means so much more than the quantity of it. Because like if my potential partner were to be like, "Hey, I got you a corgi puppy, and I know you really wanted one," like that is like quality A1,
Hmm.
right? Versus like, oh, like I did all these small things like for you, and like I spent like 5 hours with you. Like, okay, cool, like that's awesome. But, like that's not how I receive like care and love in that particular form. And so like my point being, right, is just like the quality we give is much should most definitely outweigh like the quantity of like time and effort we give.
Yeah.
Because again, someone can put in 10 hours of work to understand me, but like someone could do the same thing in an hour and totally give me the quality care and love that I need.
Yeah.
I think that stems back down to just like communication and knowing your love languages too. Because that's one thing. It's like if you don't know how you like to give or receive love and gratitude, then you can't articulate that. And if it doesn't match up with like your significant others, then both of you are going to be left like feeling underappreciated or misunderstood. And you don't necessarily have to have like the same love languages. Like my ex and I did not, but it was like we knew that and we're pretty understanding, but the lack of communication is I think the biggest relationship killer, whether it be romantic or otherwise. Just not expressing feelings, like even if you don't know exactly what those feelings are, like it's so beneficial to just like talk it out.
Yeah, and actually Colette said just a little bit earlier here that being aware of your mood and letting them know, saying like if you're irritable, say it. If you're depressed, say something. It opens up that whole world of support where, you can actually kind of figure out and understand why your other person or yourself is feeling the way that they're feeling, rather than wondering like, are you mad? It kind of seems like you're mad right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine. Okay. you know
Yeah.
I
uh,
think the
but
hard part to that is like feeling safe to communicate those things. Because I've had issues with like former partners where like I feel like I couldn't communicate. Like, oh, I'm like hella fucking mad right now. Sorry for swearing, Liz. I don't
Oh,
know if this is like
you're
PG.
fine. No, you can swear.
I was like, I don't feel like I can communicate like I'm sad right now or I need this right now because I don't feel safe to communicate it. Because I've had instances where like it's been used against me of like, oh, like I thought you were supposed to be a man, right? Like not like be hella emotional and stuff like that. And so for me, like that, well, that is something personal, like to me, like and something I'm still working through. I think it's also like being a partner to someone else, right? Like I need that safety to communicate it because I don't want to share something and all of a sudden like I don't feel safe to share anymore because it's used against me or I feel like it's not being received for that matter. Because then it's like, oh, like then it becomes this conversation of um like I'm just gonna tell you what to do, or then it's like it's not even just received as like a vent or the ways I need it to be received, and so like that kind of just puts me in the spot of like I don't want to communicate about this ever again, and then I don't feel like I don't want to be in this thing anymore, and it's just like a whole cycle of like a downward spiral.
Yeah, I think you need to be aware of what your defensive mechanisms are, because I feel like when people are being attacked, they kind of react in a certain way, or if like your significant other is trying to express like how they feel and you take it, to hurt, and then you kind of lash out. Like you really have to like learn how to be aware of that kind of interactions. Like there were moments like when my ex was like, oh, like I don't like it when you do this, and then like my first kind of thing to do was like, well, I want you to like, this is why I'm doing it like that, like I want you to understand where I'm coming from, like that this is why I do that. And then he would be like, oh, like you're just making it about you. And I don't know, that's just like a lack of communication. It's just like it's understanding each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely like need to kind of be empathetic and try to take the time to understand the other person and not like, go straight to your defense mechanism.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that real quick by saying, like, remember to, if you, right now the focus of this is about, being single and how to navigate that and the things to embrace and do to feel better during these times. But if you get yourself back out there and you get yourself into, even just like a dating situation, or something that branches out in the long term, remember that if you feel that fear trying to communicate your emotions to somebody because they might use that against you, that's a toxic space. Like try to remember and recognize, those moments as they're happening. It may not seem super clear at the time, but if something like that comes up, take the time to reflect, because the things that I've learned also with friendships as well is that, if I can't talk to somebody without getting a whole lot of shit back for it, whether it's, I mean, if there's a certain level of playful, and that's going to be to everybody's, kind of their own gauge of, the person best, right? So whether or not they're just fooling around or whatever. But at the same time, try to notice those details that suggest to you that the person that you're interacting with is toxic, and consider whether or not they're a good person to continue to have in your life, because those kinds of things are being forced to stay quiet because you're afraid of how somebody's going to react to you is something you should never have to worry about, or you're going to find yourself bottling up, becoming depressed or angry or whatever is the pertinent emotion at that time. You gotta pay attention to that so that you can navigate yourself out of it before it becomes a problem for you.
Yeah, communication is very important, because otherwise if you don't communicate and you just hold it in, like resentment starts. And I think over the years resentment could just build up until it explodes. So definitely communicate. Blaz said something, I believe that when you're single and learning so much about yourself, one important detail to keep in mind is that we are constantly changing and growing. When you're in a relationship, that change and growth continues. So there's an aspect of learning how to navigate your own growth and changing and learning the other person as well as they go through change and growth. Yeah, for sure. You have to continue to grow with the other person, or else it's just not going to work. That's what
Very good
life
point, Blas.
is. It's all about growing. And if you like don't like how you are and you want to reinvent yourself, like you have to not be worried about what other people think. But yeah, your significant other just definitely needs to work with you. The only relationship I want is friendship. So that's the next topic, finding intimacy within friendships. I was listening to this other podcast. So there's this podcast that I love. It's called Too Tired to Be Crazy. By her name is Violetta, I think. She does the Instagram daddy issues. Like, I absolutely love her. But there was one episode where she was talking about, like, you know, being single, and she was talking about how you could be intimate with friends. And I really liked that, and I thought, like, that it's definitely so true, because I think, like, society definitely makes you feel like you should be in a relationship. It pushes you to find someone, get married. They're very heavily about relationships. But like, why do you need just one person to fulfill all your needs? Like, you know, we're all so different. We all have different needs, likes, like whatever. And like, why do you need to find one person to fill all that? Like, that's very hard. And like, I found out, or I realized, like, I have different friends that all fulfill different needs. Like, if I want to go out and party, I have friends I can do that with. If I need friends to talk to and get emotional with, like, I have friends I can do that with. I have friends I can game with. But like, you can have different friends to fulfill different needs. You don't have to depend on like one person. And you can be intimate with them. You can like spill your emotions to your friends too. You can, you know, like all your needs you can fulfill with friends. So yeah, I feel like you could definitely find soulmates within friendships and intimacy within friendships. So do you guys have anything to say about the topic?
I love my friends. Like, I have a few that I've dubbed soul friends. They're just the people that, you know, when I'm ancient in the nursing home, they're the one I want next to me, just so we can like cackle at each other's laughs until we die. Like, but
I love it.
those are the people that, you know, you can play Minecraft with 12 hours and like not even talk the whole time, and it's just like fine. And also, like, finding a romantic partner, they have to be okay with you having those friendships that are intimate with other friends without getting like jealous. Because it's like, I've run into that personally. It's like, oh, starting to get to know someone, but they're really jealous of somebody I've been friends with for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not going to go well. We've been talking for 2 weeks, and this is like one of my best friends. You have to understand that it's okay, like, for other people to have friends.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that, like, in a relationship, your partner can have other friends to fill those needs, that it's not all on your romantic partner or you in the romantic relationship to satisfy everything. That's actually like a really toxic dynamic.
Yeah.
That I think we've been taught. Like, oh, why is he talking to other people? Because he should be able to talk to me about everything. And it's like, no, you need to be okay with, like, the other person talking to other people about other things. Like, I think that's totally normal and healthy.
Colette said, do not abandon
Absolutely.
your friends for a relationship. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, do not.
Please.
Please don't do that.
No, it's like very obvious, like, that's a toxic behavior too, especially because it's like, okay, that friend specifically is a guy friend, but that guy is very gay. It's like, you don't need to be threatened at all.
Right.
But I don't know, some people just want their romantic partner to be all wrapped up in them, and that's not
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah, and that's. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no.
Oh, and I'm like, and we're only perpetuating healthy relationships here.
Yeah, and know like those are reflections of that person, not you as the other person in this like situation. I think it's something that we easily forget. It's like, is it me or is it them? Like, it's definitely them, right? Because that really is a reflection and projection of like their own insecurities and things that they need to work through because whatever they probably experienced in the past, or it's some things that they may even learn from folks they associate with, right? So, because
That's
I've been in,
exciting.
yeah, um, and so like I think the hardest part is like how do we break away from those people when it's like they use so much against us in so many different ways.
I'm sorry. I was laughing a little bit because Forgotten Fatality over here. He makes an excellent point in a funny way. Relationships are like parties. When you're not invited, you're just like, damn, I really want to go to this party. But when you're at the party, you're like, fuck, this party sucks, and I want to leave. And it's a good point in a roundabout way. You're like, yeah. But letting your significant other choose your friends, don't. Yeah, that's a no-no. If they can't be comfortable with the friends that you have, there's a flag for sure. You really shouldn't have to pick to begin with, and of course that just reminds me of the old Newfound Glory song, "My Friends Over You." I don't know if anybody else knows, but it's a great song back in the day, especially for like certain breakups where it was like, yeah, I picked my friends over you because they're my friends, and they're the better part of me. You are just one person, and we couldn't make it work, so my friends,
they'll be there.
Yeah.
they work.
And not all friends will always be there, but that's why, like, share the love. Yeah.
And your SO should be like, ultimately you want them to be your best friend, or at least one of them, but it's like, oh, if you boil it down, you're like, I'd much rather be spending time with my friends over you, then that's also a flag. But that's just me enjoying being single.
Yeah, when I was with my ex, I think like in the later part of the years, especially after we had kids, like I felt like I should be at home with him and the kids. So I didn't really go out with friends all that often. And I think like I really found happiness after becoming single again and spending so much time with friends. Like I'm like I really enjoy this. It's a lot of fun. We have so many great experiences. So definitely take advantage of that when you're single. And keep doing it when you're in a relationship. Don't neglect your friends. Yeah, Forgotten Fatality, he makes a good point, because I feel like a lot of the times people want what they can't have. And after I became single, I did notice like friends and relationships, a lot of them really aren't happy. And yeah, I mean, it's just sad to see, but you should definitely figure yourself out, and we only have one life. Like, you shouldn't be in a relationship just because you feel like you need to.
Yeah, and I like to think like as a single person, once you're in this position, start appreciating what you do have, and for the things that you want but feel like you can't have, they're probably things that you can earn. So accept and appreciate what you have, and earn what you want. Because if you think you can't have it, I mean, it's probably gonna be relative to whether or not it's actually achievable or not, I suppose. But you probably can. You just got to be patient and wait. You got to give yourself the time and earn your way there.
Yeah. And thinking back, that reminds me, like, thinking back to what I just said, like, just because you're not happy in a relationship doesn't mean you should end it. Of course, try to make it work first, but if it doesn't, then, like, maybe it's just not meant to.
Yeah. Also try to recognize those moments when those come up, when you find yourself going, okay, how many times have I tried? If you're trying enough times that if you can count it on more than one hand, that's probably too many, right? Give it your best effort, but also try to recognize when it just doesn't seem like it's gonna improve. And honesty is it's so important.
Yeah. I remember talking to Fluffy in her stream, and we were talking about soulmates. Nettie had brought up the subject, and like in the whole like astrology thing, they talk about how there's like a twin flame, and it's supposed to be like your kind of your other half, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like a romantic other half. It's just like your other part of your soul, and you might not necessarily meet them in this lifetime, but another. But it was saying that you can also have like a lot of different soulmates, and I feel like yeah, you can have a lot of soulmates, and they don't have to be romantic. They can just be like people that you really connect with. Nettie said Rolly's my lover but not my soulmate. But yeah, I don't know, I do love my friends, like Nettie and Piglet. I love them a ton, and sometimes I'm just like, I love these girls, like they make me so happy. And I feel a lot of emotion with that. Like, you don't have to just have that one romantic partner to feel those emotions.
Thank you, Colette.
Thank you.
She
Colette.
said, P.S. Any lurkers in chat? These 4 lovely people are single, and I can vouch for all 4
My
of them
God.
being amazing people. However, if you hurt any of them, I will hunt you down, and you won't be happy. Appreciate you, Colette.
Thanks, Colette.
Thank you, Colette.
Got my back.
Trying to stand all of us right now. Oh my God.
Yo. Did you wanna try and cover some of? I think
questions?
we've answered a couple of the questions. But yeah, I'll leave it to you on which ones you want to tap into here, and then I've got the viewer questions as well so far.
Okay. Let's see. So our first question is, how do you handle seeing everyone around you in a relationship and not being in one yourself? Does it mess with your self-esteem and make you feel bad? If so, how do you handle it?
Ooh, this is a big one for me. Man, where to begin with this one? I think the first thing I want to say is like, honestly, like I do get sad sometimes, right? Of like, there's companionship there, there's like affection there, right? And there's things that some of my needs are just not getting met right now, right? Like if I had a dog right now, a lot of needs would be met, of like physical affection and like being shown love in many different ways. I think the thing I gotta realize, right, is like, is there more to this than what I'm seeing right now? Right? Like what is the other parts of that I'm not seeing that I need to recognize that they probably worked at this, they've had their own fights, they've had their issues and things that they worked through, right? And it's like, you know what? Like I can't compare myself because, well, one, I'm not in a relationship, and two, like, is that something I want right now, right? I think the other part of it too is like, is knowing like what are some of the other things that are bringing me joy right now too, right? So like playing games with friends, right? Watching planes wander on stream, right? Like snipe people in Valorant, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I see you on Valorant. Maybe not Apex, but
Should be more Apex, frankly. But
But right, it's like, what are those things that bring you joy, like by yourself, right? Because like, I think kind of what we've seen in the chat already is, working on yourself, being with yourself, being happy by yourself, right? And especially amongst all 4 of us here is like, how do you create happiness for ourselves so that when we meet folks, right, that want to be a part of that, right, we were able to share that with them. Yeah, I will leave it there because I feel like I could run on to this.
You can share as much as you want.
I know, but I feel like I'm gonna ramble for like a hot minute because my brain is on like quarantine brain right now.
I'll jump in for a moment here and just say like, there's certain aspects of seeing others in relationship that can occasionally be a little bit of a bummer when you see it, like, somebody walking down the street holding hands with somebody else, and or watching other people, hug each other and what have you, especially during quarantine right now. Like, I'll tell you all straight up, like, no shame here, I miss hugs. Holy crap.
Oh
Hugs.
my God.
I tell you what.
Second here.
But
Such a affectionate person, yeah.
seeing other people in relationships and such, at this point I've kind of reached my own personal mentality that I'm just happy to see those other people being happy out there, right? Thanks, Z. But the one that gets me, the one that's actually kind of weird to me, and I know this is like a hill to get over myself, but seeing just really good relationships in shows, that's the one that gets in my head the most. And it's sad because those are the ones that aren't real. Like it's acted out. It's fake. It's, you know, but you see some, you see some movies or you see some TV shows and you're just like, you fantasize about it. You want that to be reality, even though it isn't. And so those are the ones that kind of get in my head a little bit. But for the most part, I wouldn't say that it messes with my self-esteem or makes me feel bad, because I know where I'm at currently, and I think that understanding that, you know, you are choosing to be independent right now, and that in itself is just the reminder you have to throw yourself every time you start thinking about, like, oh, this is a bummer that I'm seeing somebody else that's so much happier and with somebody. You got to turn around and be like, no, remember, you're self-improving, you're growing, and there's no reason to feel bad, because you're going to get your chance one day if you want that chance. You just got to, again, I'm always going to circle back to the one of the most important things in my mind is patience. You just have to be willing to be patient, and that's what helps me handle that feeling whenever I'm starting to feel, you know, worried about seeing other people in a good relationship, right?
I totally agree with that, because for me it's like I do, like, every once in a while just get really sad, my monthly bathtub cry, where it's just like, oh, I wish I had that other person that I just felt like I really relate to, because I feel like I had that and I miss that. But I also look at it, it's like, do I feel like I could be in a better position than I am in my life right now? And then for me, the answer is no. Just like I wouldn't be on Twitch if I was still in my relationship, and it's like I like the life that I'm living right now, and I'm able to focus on building what I want in the future. And I'm like a super impatient person, so it's like, yeah, let's hurry up to the point where it's like I'm established and like have a family already. But it's like, no, those are like baby steps, and just focusing on like where I am today. Like, is it better than it was yesterday? What can I do to put myself in a better position moving forward? Sorry if that's a little
Yeah.
rambly off topic, but
No, that
that's
that makes sense.
it's like, okay.
Yeah, for me, like I don't mind being the third wheel with friends. Like I just love hanging out with my friends. I don't really mind that. Um, I guess the only time where I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I was in a relationship is if I'm in somewhere that's like super romantic, like a cute festival, or like just like a nice, cute, like romantic restaurant where I'm like, oh, I wish I like had that significant other that I can like, you know, experience this with him. Um, but in the end, I just try to remember, like, you know, he could be out there. Like, at least I have, I don't know what's in my future, and I might have this opportunity to do that in the future. So I just need to enjoy the time I have now being single, and, you know, hopefully that could come later on. Same with watching like romantic movies and like K dramas and stuff. It's just more like, oh, like I wish I had that, but it's so cute. But there's like always a chance of me having this in the future. So that's kind of like what I think when I watch romantic movies and K dramas. I'm just kind of more excited about like, oh, I hope I find this later on. But I don't really let them bother me. Um, does it mess with my self esteem? Not really, because I feel like it's not really a representation of me, or um how do I say this? Like I kind of choose to be single. Like if I'm sure if I really really wanted to, like I can find someone to date, like if I was desperate or whatever. And all of us, like, you know, we're all beautiful people. Like if we really wanted to, we can find someone. There's some people that are just like in relationship after relationship, but that's not what I want. Like I actually want to find someone that I connect with. Like I have certain standards and stuff. And so it's not, I don't think it's my fault in any way that I'm single. um Not that it's like a bad place to be, but like a lot of our viewers in chat, or anyone, you know, who thinks like, oh, I can't find someone, like you probably can. You just, you know, you just need to keep working on yourself and show them your best self. But they're out there. Sometimes it just does take a lot of patience. But yeah.
I'm gonna have to look away from chat for a little bit.
Oh gosh.
This guy.
Oh my god, I'm reading it too. I do want to say this though. It's like I think the other part we also want to acknowledge and be mindful of is like, is the other person gonna fit the bill, right? Like, are they gonna fit like the ways in which you want to be cared for, right? Your needs and your wants that they can cater to, right? And be mindful of like our own interests and needs, right? Like for like all of us here, we're streamers, right? And like for us, like streaming is a big thing, regardless of like how big our following is, right? And so like I think it's also like not just like us being our best selves, also like does the person fit the bill?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they okay with that? It's like if they're the type of person that's going to have a problem with anything that you are already doing or have goals to do, then that's just like important to know that that person's not it. Because some people,
Boundaries, folks. Boundaries.
some people, they're like, "Oh, you stream," and they're like super jealous. So that's something. It's like at least in our situation,
I
all
pointed
of
the
us
wrong
being
way.
streamers.
Colette said, "You should remember it's okay to be nostalgic about the good times. The most important thing is that you learn something from the past relationships so you can move forward healthily." Claudio said, "I think once you develop the right relationship with yourself, seeing others in relationships or PDA won't bother you as much. I jumped into a relationship just so I can be in a relationship and fit in, and it took being in that toxic relationship to realize that until I work on myself, I would never be happy in one." And yeah, that's a thing. I was just like, when I was going on like those dates and blah, 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 I was like, is it worth it? Like, why am I wasting my time with other people and I'm not even enjoying it? Like, why be in a relationship if you don't even enjoy it? Like, in that case, it's better to be single than, you know, be with someone
It's
else
true.
and not be happy.
Same thought where you're just like, I could be alone right now.
Yeah.
Why did I do this?
I could be doing whatever I want.
Man, that introverted status, let me tell you, sometimes you're just like,
Oh yes.
it's so great that I don't have to go anywhere right now.
Or
Like,
like I could literally do whatever I want in my house. Like it's totally fine.
It's Friday night. I would have been dragged out to downtown, and I don't have to now. Cool.
And you save some money.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Even though there are some moments, and in general, I'm pretty happy about being single, and I'm grateful for what I can do while being single.
All
Being
right.
miserable in a relationship isn't happy. Get him out for sure. Okay. Let's see. When single, did you ever want that person you could fall back on and rely on to comfort you when down? We kind of talked about that for a little bit. Do you guys have any more thoughts on that?
So is like that fallback person supposed to be like a former partner, a friend? Like who is that supposed to be? That's my question.
I think that's kind of up to interpretation, right?
Yeah.
I would say probably more, at least in my mind, it's a little bit more friend than necessarily like an ex, because realistically, and it's not the case for everybody, but some people have the fortune of still being friends with some of their exes, right? Or one of who knows how many. I'm not one of those people, so for me, it would be more about friends.
Hmm.
Not for lack of trying, for what it's worth. It's just, that kind of thing. It just never works, right?
Yeah, I mean, right, it's like
Yeah.
boundaries too, right? Like if you don't want to be around that person because of what has happened, like, and for your own mental health sake, like, if it just puts you in a place that you're not around them, cool. Like, I fully 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I think like some people want to have like a significant other that they can fall back on, but again, they can just rely on friends to comfort them if they really need it. If they need someone to listen to, it doesn't have to be
yeah,
a
and
single person.
in a way, like, for at least as far as like my general answer to that one goes, that kind of falls back a little bit too on a different form of dependency, right? Like you're looking for that person to fall back on to comfort you in a time where you might need to be doing so for yourself. Like you may need to be working on, that self-care where you're doing what you can to bring your spirits up rather than looking for somebody that is available to you to fall back on. And so for me, I guess I don't really have quite in a way. Like, I have a lot of friends that I can go to if I need help. If I have, if I'm feeling down about something, I know there are people that I can go to and let them know that, like, I'm feeling down and just have somebody to talk to. But I also know that, like, it's not anything personal to them, but I have to also be willing to kind of rely on myself to comfort myself to some degree. So it's not to say that you need to be alone with this. It's just to say that, like, you don't want to be dependent upon others in that sense, but know that your friends are there for you. Never forget that they're, like, especially with the community that I've most recently become a part of, I've never had so much support, right? But when it was me on my own for a while, I definitely, had to just kind of work with myself to not feel like I needed to go to my best friend or anything like that to be like, hey man, I'm feeling down and out right now. Can you spend some time with me to help me feel better? Or, anything like that. I just had to kind of go, okay, what can I do for myself to make myself feel better now? And that's where it is.
Yeah, it's about building that like emotional maturity. Like how with kids they have to kind of learn for themselves how to deal with problems. Like even as adults, sometimes we need to be able to do that. We can't just like always run to someone else to like, fix it for us. We have to learn how to fix things on our own. Okay, do you guys have any more thoughts on that? This one's a little like off topic, but we'll answer it. Has there been a time when a friend has betrayed you and gone behind your back with your partner? If so, how did you handle it?
Not
That I
not
know
to like
of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
throw
it's not
you under
happened
the
to
bus
me.
here, Liz, but I think that you are the primary one for that one.
um,
in a roundabout way.
I don't know, not a friend that's betrayed me. My ex's friend.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Got
what
betrayed.
that's what I was kind of remembering there.
Oh
um,
yeah. Yeah. So basically, my ex, his best friend from middle school introduced his girlfriend to my ex, thinking that they'd like become all friends and like they'd play games together and stuff. But they ended up getting close and kind of like ended up, betraying both of us, me and his best friend. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, he definitely had it hard too. But he's doing better now.
and
the
I
best
think
friend.
as far as the second part of that goes, like handling it just for the sake of the person who asked, handling that part of it, or advice that I would give to somebody is that falls in line with the whole toxicity thing again, right? Um, if you've been betrayed by a friend, like they went behind your back with your partner, that that to me is a red flag about your friend too. You don't want to have that kind of person in your life because they were willing to make your life more difficult, especially in a way that's just one of those things that it's so much more impactful, for a person to feel that kind of betrayal. And yeah, you should probably not have them in your life.
Hmm.
That would be Yeah, that'd be the way I'd go. I mean,
Yeah.
some friendships just can't stand the test of time.
Yeah, if
It's
they're
one of
that
those things.
selfish that they wouldn't care about your feelings, like, you don't need them.
Yeah, that's one of those instances where it's like, that's a shitty situation that shouldn't happen, but it's like you can cut those people out.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be friends with everyone. You can't, I don't know.
Mm.
Some people are just shitty. And you can't
Hmm.
control what they do, but you do have to know when to like put boundaries up and do what you need to for yourself. Let's see. How how do you cope with a huge change in life, as a breakup? So we kind of answered that. Um, I don't know. Do you guys have any
Uh,
more thoughts on that one?
right. Yeah, that one was from Colette. How do you cope with a huge change in life, such as a breakup? Yeah, I think we did kind of cover that one pretty
Yeah,
well.
I mean, time definitely heals. So you just kind of have to get through it as much as possible. If you have to distract yourself, if you have to um, spend time with friends, or just you know like change your environment to whatever. But time does heal. because,
Absolutely.
yeah, because breakup is kind of like a loss in itself. Like you go through a grieving period. So just like as you would for like a death or whatever, you just have to, get through it as much as you can and let time heal, because it always does. Is there ever a time that you felt like you were staying in the relationship because of comfortability?
Yep. Yeah.
For several years.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it was just like there have been several instances where it was just like my body was telling me like this isn't it, like this ain't it, chief, you need to get out of here. But my mind was just like, no, you can like keep making this work. But I think the biggest reason that I stayed in the relationship was I didn't want to have to deal with trying to date again when I was single. I was just like, I don't know if this is like the best relationship I'll find. Like, what if everyone out there is worse? Like, things like that. It was just like, I didn't want to have to deal with being on my own. But then it's like, no, I'm strong. I can do that. And just believing in yourself and knowing that it's okay to be alone and just have friends, and that there's nothing inherently wrong or selfish with being single. Especially because I feel like it's kind of painted as like if you're single, you are actively single and dating. I feel like there's that misconception. It's like, no, I feel like a lot of people I know that are single, including myself, it's like, no, they're like so far away from the whole scene.
Yeah.
Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing.
I keep wanting to get back on the dating apps, but I'm just too busy streaming. I don't have time. And I'm too busy just, talking to my friends.
Yeah.
There's just no time for it, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely scary, especially like everything that you said, you don't know if like things just might be worse, but yeah, that's a thing that you have to like realize, that being single is okay, and it is definitely better than being in a crappy relationship.
It's like, have you tried enjoying yourself in like a hot minute or what? Like, because I feel like the folks that, and I'm one of them too, right, who've gotten on like dating apps and whatnot, but I feel like at this point in time, I'm just like, man, I really enjoy, I think, as we've all said it, is like just having time for ourselves. Like, yeah, like, have you had a pet before? Like, have you been by yourself before? Like, it's a lot of fun. And this is just like me, like 80% introvert right here.
yeah.
Like, let me have all the
Well,
alone time.
I totally feel you. One of my coworkers like, you're an extrovert. I'm like, no. Like, I'm
No.
very I'm very introverted, because he's like, oh, I hate spending time by myself. I'm like, I love it. Just like sitting in like a sun patch by myself with some coffee. That's just like,
Oh, that is
that's
it.
all I want. Like, why would I date when I can have my coffee like in a sun patch by myself? But see,
Man,
that's
that sounds amazing.
yeah, so it's like you have to find the person that makes you want to give up the like quiet sun patch,
I don't know. I don't know about that part.
or share it together. Like,
I was like, either share or like let you still have that. One of the two.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there were definitely times where, especially in my last relationship, where I was just very much hanging in there because I didn't want to get it back out there. That was one thing. I also agree that same kind of thing, right? That I didn't feel like I was going to do better. I felt like I had reached a peak, and I was worried about losing that, and not being able to do any better. So there was a lot of years of trying to make things work, and I'm one of those people that I could have counted on more than one hand the number of times I tried to make things right and work, and should have taken the hint a lot sooner. But sometimes relationships just be like that, where you are blinded by what you want the most out of it, and you can't really convince yourself otherwise until it's been too much time. and of course, when you're getting a little bit older, as every year passes, you're starting to wonder, like, is it going to be easy enough to do this again? But I can tell you, at least for me, one thing that's been great was I never because I started dating my ex when I did. I never Tinder and all that stuff wasn't out. You couldn't touch the only dating apps were like Plenty of Fish and eHarmony and like all those old website ones,
Yeah.
right? There wasn't apps for that. So when the apps came out, I was already in a relationship, and I had already, convinced myself at the time. I was like, even if this doesn't work out for me, even if this relationship moves on, I'm not going to touch them. And I can tell you that that's been one piece of stress that I haven't had to worry about since becoming single again, was that I don't have to worry about swiping left or right. I don't have to worry about making a connection with somebody that could end up being, a connection that gets forced. Um, it was one of those. It was one of those decisions that I was really glad I made, because not having that to deal with is really nice. But that all comes back down to that codependency again, where you just feel that comfort because you're afraid of what you're going to have to deal with once you lose it.
Yeah.
I will say this though, like I think dating does get easier as you move on, because it's like, for me in my own experience, like I now know what I'm gonna put up with and what I'm not gonna put up with. It's like, what are like hard boundaries, the non-negotiables that I'm just like, yeah, this is a red flag. I'm out. I'll talk to you later, maybe never, but I think it does get easier though, because then I've met people where I'm like, oh, like I could really see this. Other people, I'm like, this is a hard no. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, if you want to be friends, cool. If not, like, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it sounds like mean spirited in some sense, and I think like it's more of just like, I don't have time to play games. Like, to be very honest, like communicate with me what it is that you need, right? Like, be straightforward. What is it you want, and then like we can go from there. Now, not everyone's on that same playing field, right? Of like, I'm playing basketball, the other person's playing baseball, and it's something like, how do we find that common ground to communicate these different things too?
Yeah. And actually, just another thing that I'll mention as I was kind of glancing through chat here, Colette had mentioned that for men too, but as women, as a woman, I know it's especially tough because we don't. Oh wait, that's not the one I was reading earlier. It had to do with self-esteem. I'm just gonna go with that. And I want to say too that, like, one of the things is self-care. You work on self-esteem. If you let your self-esteem drop, it's going to become toxic for yourself, and the people around you will sense that, and hopefully the people that are around you will want to help you improve it. But it's also uh, this is going to come off in what sounds like a dick way, no matter what. But like, lack of self-esteem is not attractive. Like, you're not going to come off to people in a bright light if you are just constantly down on yourself. And so being able to build your self-esteem and maintain it, work on it, continue to keep it up, is going to make you that much more attractive to the people around you, that you may have a friend that you didn't even know that you're interested in, just because they exude a confidence that is better than constantly shitting on yourself.
And kind of on the same, like, flip side of that token, having that confidence to not feel insecure about other people, because I know some people, if they're talking to someone or like early on in a relationship, if you're not confident in yourself, they can think like, oh, well, why are they picking me? And that kind of thing, and then that will like eat away at that potential relationship too. It's just like having that confidence in yourself to say, like, this is who I am. I am happy with it. Like, everyone has stuff to work on, but being able to be like confident in yourself.
Yeah.
Not having those insecurities like in a relationship.
Definitely.
And you want to be yourself. Like, why would you want someone who just sees like a fake you? You want to be confident with yourself, because you want them to, if you're looking for a partner, you want them to like love you for who you are. And And yeah, Plains, we were talking about like forcing a relationship yesterday. Yeah, definitely. You don't want to. You kind of want to like just let a relationship find you, and not like push for it so much, because it's kind of like how they say like, oh, come when you least expect it. Because if you're like super looking for a relationship and you force it, it's not gonna work. It's you're putting that other person like on a pedestal. um I was showing Plains that Ariana Grande song in my head. And I don't know if you guys have heard that song.
I love that song.
Right, I
Very
love that
good
song so much
breakup song
too. Let me find it. I can't play it because it's copyrighted.
Copyright.
In my head. But there's a
But
lot
you
of
can't stop people from clicking a link in chat.
yeah, true. Can you please paste the link?
Yes.
But she says, let's see. You're in love with a version of a person that you've created in your head. You're trying to but cannot fix. The only thing you can fix is yourself. Painted a picture. I thought I knew you well. I got a habit of seeing what isn't there. Caught in the moment. Let's see. My imagination's too creative. I thought you were the one. Needed something to believe in, but it was all in my head. I invented you. Let's see. Everything you are made you everything you aren't. I saw your potential without seeing credentials. Maybe that's the issue. Can't hold that shit against you. Guess I did to myself. Thought you were somebody else. And that's the thing. Like, it's easy to like meet someone and just like imagine all you could be with that person. But you have to be realistic, and you have to see them for who they really are. So definitely do not want to force relationships.
Yeah, and since we did talk about that yesterday, I'll tap into that a little bit too, and just say, like, for the one of the things that was kind of like a clear indicator of my past relationship, that I when I reflected on it afterwards, of course, I didn't know that I was necessarily doing something that I shouldn't have at the time. I was a lot younger then, and I've learned a lot about it since then. But I was when I started the relationship with my ex, it was over a situation where we had dated once before previously for just a few months, and at the time it just wasn't right, and so we decided to separate. When we broke up that first time, it was just because we weren't in sync yet. And then when things kind of came back around several months later, there was a lot of factors that came into that that led up to this point. But at that point in time, I was like, okay, I did want to be with this person. And I think I was just convincing myself at the time that I did because it was something that was attainable for me. And I let that part of my thoughts just envelop all other sense of reasoning there. And I pursued her heavily, I guess. I don't want to make it sound like I was like overbearing or anything like that, because I don't believe that I was, but I definitely did go after that relationship in a way where I was like, okay, we did have our hurdles, but I'm ready for it now, and I'd love to give it a try. And I didn't really think about it until, again, after it was over. But it was like, okay, when I look back on that time, I was like, okay, I did go into that, pushing for it. Like, I wanted it to happen, rather than really looking at it and going, okay, are we on the same wavelength? Are we on the right path together? And is this going to be worth it? And unfortunately, it took me 9 years before I really clicked with that. But it was like, that that would have been a big indicator early on. I'm a big advocate of not pushing, not pursuing, so much as get out there, meet people, and just see if you click. That patience, again, is a big key thing here, where if that's something you want out of your life, to go look, seek it out, and push for it. You don't know if you're really getting yourself into something that, that doesn't mean don't take leaps, don't take jumps. It just means that know that if you have to make an extreme amount of effort to make it happen, maybe that it's not supposed to happen because you're having to put so much more into it than the other person would be reciprocating, right? So yeah, it's one of those things that I feel like you just give it enough time, you wait, and eventually it's gonna happen for you. You just keep your eyes open.
The old phrase, like, love happens when you're not looking for it.
100%.
So it's like, if you're I believe if you're focusing on yourself and like doing your own thing, then just by nature of the universe, you'll start like attracting people or being around people that share your same goals and interests. Whereas if you are trying, like, your goal is to actively like find somebody, you may not be, finding the right people just because like the context is different.
Right.
Yep.
Anything to add, Ian?
Nope, y'all pretty much covered it.
This is a little corny, but I just thought of it. But C is for comfortable, and if you just stay comfortable, that's like getting a C in life. Like, you want to strive for more, strive for that A, strive for better, because you feel like, even if you feel like, oh, like, I'm comfortable, life is good, like, why take a risk if it could be worse? If life is good, like, I'll take what I can get. But like, you staying with that person makes you skip out on all the possibilities that can happen because you're with someone. If you're single, you have like all these opportunities, but when you're with someone, like, you don't have those opportunities out for you. So, like, kind of minimize your life, get rid of the things that you don't need to make room for the things that, would actually be good for you. So,
Isn't comfortable.
That's actually a really good way to look at it.
Very uncomfy.
yeah.
And yeah, that's why it's like, oh, usually if things feel weird or stressful, like in life, it's probably because you're doing something or you're on the cusp of change and need to do something. And yeah, just being comfortable and stagnant, it can be nice, but it's also not the most rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Especially because we're all young, and as much as like an inner grandma that I have, it's like I'm not ready to keel over and just like be okay with having like the same existence for the rest of my life.
Yeah, we only get one life. We need to see what there is for life to offer.
Yeah, once your relationship gets to like just Netflix and chilling on the couch, then it's like that's not necessarily the type of relationship you want to be in.
Yeah. Do you want to waste your life doing that?
There needs to be an emotional connection and to go with the physical connection. If all you got left is the physical connection, well,
Or not even
you're not
that.
going to be satisfied otherwise.
Yeah, it's like you can totally like be fine and enjoy just like spending time together. I think that's absolutely necessary. If you don't just enjoy sitting in silence with your partner, then it's probably not a good relationship. But it's also like, if you're not excited about trying to do new things with that person, then it's probably, I want to say like last leg, but at least in my situation with like my ex and I's schedules being totally opposite, we only got to see each other a few hours a day, and it's like, oh well, when he would wake up, it'd be just about time for me to go to bed. He'd be like, oh, you want to go for a walk? I'm like, it's like 10 p.m. at night, like not really. Anyway, that's kind of rambling, but just knowing like,
Yeah.
you have to grow together. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. After going through a breakup from the significant other being bored, how do you get over the feeling of not being good enough?
Okay, that's Keys' question here. All right. Yeah, after going through a breakup from the so significant other being bored, how do you get over the feeling of not being good enough? Shoot, I'll jump in on that one too real quick if everybody's cool with that.
Yeah, and I think a couple other people mentioned too, like they kind of went through something similar. I think it was Joker Millennium.
You asked it in chat, Keys. I'm not exposing you.
I know.
It was in chat. And you said it exactly like that. You said asking for a friend, and in parentheses, the friend is me. So,
Yes, I remember
anyways.
reading that, so I'm witness to it.
I didn't do nothing. Okay, so you know, for me, I think the first thing was, and yes, Parchuki, I saw that. I will circle back onto your question as well. But so for me, it was all about knowing myself that I knew that I didn't feel like I was a boring person. Um, and of course, one of the things that I immediately went and told my friends, like when I finally got that answer from my ex, and I remember we were in our room, and this was just as I was starting the process of moving out and everything. I just had to I got that overbearing, overwhelming desire to ask the question, can you just kind of tell me, like, how did we get here? Like, what happened that was so terrible that we're to this point where this is over? And she's like, do you want to know the truth? And I was like, that's why I'm asking. Of course I want to know the truth. And she was like, it's gonna sound really mean. And I was like, well, I mean, we've kind of passed that point with everything that we've led up to here. So just tell me and we can move on. And she's like, you got boring. And I was like, oh. And I started to think about like all the things, like in that moment, it was almost not to sound over dramatic, but a life before your eyes flash, right? You start to think about everything in that moment, and for me, I was just thinking like, okay, what have we done in the last few months? What have we done in the last year? What have we done in the last 9 years, right? And started to reflect in that instance on, oh, we did this and this and this, and it's like I could think of all these things that were like, I don't feel like we were boring. I don't feel like I was boring. I feel like I was contributing and giving us things to do, and you know, trying. That probably the best way I can put that. And so, of course, right afterwards, I kind of went to my friends and I was like, here's where we're at, guys. This is what's going on in my life right now. And she said I was boring, and again, having that love and support around you, whether it's your family or your friends, I'll even say too that my folks were the same way. The first thing out of their mouths, of course, in your own head, you're going to get in there and you're going to be like, are they just saying this because it's me? And you got to gauge it, I guess. But at the same time, like if you've got a really great group of friends, and good family members behind you, that they're going to be telling you the truth because they have no real reason to lie to you. But yeah, they immediately, were there to support and say, hey, you are not a boring person. You are an exciting and fun person to have around. You're fun to be with, that kind of stuff. And so it was just, remembering those things for me was especially helpful. Remembering that right after I was told that, and I told my friends that that's what she thought, all of those people immediately proved that theory wrong. And like in her eyes, I may have become boring, but in her eyes, it's just because I wasn't doing the things that she wanted to do. It was because I wasn't, there were certain things that I know it was like I had pushed back on doing at times, but it was like that's not because I was boring. It was just because it wasn't the right time for us to do certain things. And we always, we'd always make up for it at some point or another, right? But overall, it was just you know, remembering that that's one person who thinks that. They're the only one that has gone out of their way to tell you that they think you're boring. And nobody else around you believes that. So it can't, I mean, to that one person, sure. But to everybody else, nah. And you just got to remember that, there, if everybody else is thinking it, you're you're fun. You're a fun person. At least I hope so.
um, gosh, there's so many things I wanted to say. Well, first of all, you're not boring. Like, you're fun to talk to. You know,
Thank
we
you.
all enjoy talking to you. And it is hard to hear that from someone that you spent so much time with. You know, it sucks to hear that, like, in the end, after the whole relationship, like, that's how they summarized it. That's like the person that like knows you the best and spent like the most time with you, like that's what they think in the end. And it's so sad to hear that. But the thing is like, kind of like what I was saying earlier, familiarity breeds contempt. And I think like what's that word when you just see something so much, like you get desensitized. And like, you know how you can freaking like some people, like they can see death every single day, and you know that's horrifying. But some people, they see it all the time and they get desensitized, right? And like in really long relationships, like you guys see each other every single day, and like the things, like I said, the things that they probably found cute about you before or found interesting, like they've seen it so much they don't find it cute or interesting anymore, you know. And I don't think it's you guys that got boring, it's just they ended up finding the relationship boring just because they got so used to it. But that's like a no reflection of you guys.
Right.
There, you probably could have like thought of so many fun things to do and they still would have been bored, because like that's just the type of person they are. I think, you know, some people, they just get more bored with life, and not, you know, they're just not as grateful. It all ties to like being appreciative and stuff. And so they weren't appreciative of as you as you, and they, you know, in the end just like thought it was boring. But that's definitely a reflection of them and not you. And same with Keezus. Like Keezus is so interesting and fun, like with his vibe checks. Like I love him. He's such a fun guy. So definitely not you guys. Definitely just either the other person or just the fact that the relationship just went on for too long and they needed a change. But I think I said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, I want to add this piece of like, for folks that have been in like toxic relationships or like particularly like really like traumatic ones, and having worked with students and like comforting and supporting like friends and colleagues like through those like really hard relationships, I think the other part is to know that like it's okay if they're boring, like boring in the sense of like that you all are not fighting, you all are not like in these like really hard spaces a lot of the times. Like that's okay. Like if things work out easy, like that's okay too, right? Like, because I think when we get used to like the arguments, the fighting, the high energy of the relationship, it's like this is what a relationship has to be. No, like it does not have to always be like this really imperfect thing. Like no, like things can fall into place super easy like dominoes, right? Um, and so it's just like I want to affirm for folks that are in like relationships where everything just feels comfortable like 99.9% of the time. That's okay. Like we are allowed to have relationships that are like that are just like, hey, you know what? Like we just like sit on the couch, play with the dog all the time. Like cool. Like that's awesome. No fights. Cool. Because we talk about it all the time. Like I don't think we need to feel like we have to be like arguing to like feel like we're in a relationship. Like no, relationships can be good in that way too.
Yeah. And I think that's like the tricky thing about being in a relationship. Like when you're in a brand new relationship, like you get those butterflies, you get that like sense of excitement. It's kind of like a drug. And, you know, like just like how people get addicted to drugs, they probably get addicted to the feelings that they have when they're like in a new relationship. But that's not like how relationships actually are. Those butterflies eventually go away. And you just learn how to deal with that. You learn to love someone for who they are, not the feelings they give you.
Yep.
Kind of circling back to what we talked about earlier about, are you envious or jealous of relationships you see or like relationships on TV? Like those always seem like super fake to me, especially because like you're right, like relationships aren't always going to be like that. You don't need to be fighting to feel like you're in a relationship. It's like I get envious of old people. Like when I see a cute old couple and it's like, you've been married for 50 years, like you built her that house, like that's what I want, where they're just like partners in crime together. And I think now, like, society is a little bit different. Well, a lot bit different with the internet. Like, we don't need to try and get married at 18 and have kids, like, right away. And I think people need to be okay with that, too. Because I know even, like, myself in high school and college and stuff, it's like, I'm not a very traditional person, but it was still like, there's this big expectation of like, when are you going to get married? And like, when are you going to have kids? And it's like, you should have thought about that and have an answer. But it's like, with how long people are living now, it's like, I think that everything should be shifted back a little bit. Like, it's okay to be in your 30s and not be married, and that doesn't mean you're broken or rejected and things like that. That just means like, you know, maybe you're building your life. Like, that's the new teenage years, is your 20s, I guess, just figuring things out, like what you want to do long term.
Yeah, I feel like the question I get now, like, or I still have family members that ask me that too, Sierra, of like when you get married, like when you have kids, and I have friends that ask me like, when are you gonna get your dog? Because you talk about it all the time. I'm like, give me like another year or two where I
Yeah.
try to provide for my dog. Like, I'd rather have a fur baby than an actual child right now, because I understand that my dog will come to me and be like, hey, I'm happy to see you like every day, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate when that kind of stuff happens to you, like when we are actually asked questions about like our like us rather than like the other person that's potentially going to be here, because that means to me it feels like you're referring me and who I am rather than like my worth is dependent upon like, do I have a partner, do I have kids, do I have all these things that is expected to be a like a normal thing. Like, it's okay to be like, if someone folks are like 30 and like dating, or if folks are 30 and single, right, or like whatever that may be for folks, right, like that's okay. Like, be on your own timeline. Like, stay in your lane, not go into someone else's lane.
It's 2020, like, your purpose is not solely reproducing in life. Like, let's establish that. Like, that is
Yes.
not the end goal in
Yeah.
life. And I think that, like, there's a lot of unlearning those, like, antiquated social norms, just, like,
Oh yeah.
across the board. Like, I feel like that's pretty apparent.
Yeah. If you don't want to
Yeah.
get married, don't get married. Don't let
Like,
society
if you want to be a
pressure
dog
you.
parent, be a dog parent.
Yeah, exactly. If
Mhm.
you don't want to have kids, don't let people pressure you into having kids. There's so many mothers out there that shouldn't. They're not happy. They shouldn't have had kids.
Absolutely. Like, not everyone's meant to
Yeah, everyone's
reproduce, and that's okay. Like,
different. Yeah.
not everyone wants to, and like, we shouldn't shame people for their decision
Nah.
on like how they want to live their life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think 20s are definitely like a time to just kind of get on your own, move out of your family's house, and then just like move out by yourself or move out with friends and just find yourself. And then 30s, whatever pace you're at, but 30s you can start working on finding someone if you want. But just take the time to figure yourself out. And yeah, there's no rush. I do have some friends that are married with kids, but I also have so many friends that are like late 20s, early 30s that aren't dating anyone. They don't have kids. They're, never were married. Like, there's tons of them. You're not alone if you're those ages and like aren't dating anyone. There's plenty of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's never too late to like reclaim your life, because and like, not to feel bad about how you choose to live your life, because I know girls that I went to high school with where they've been divorced twice and they're like 24, and they have a kid or things like that. But it's like, it's not too late to change, like, making decisions.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like not letting other people's opinions pressure you, basically.
Yeah.
That's big. That's very big.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but
Yeah. My favorite quote that like I've had for forever is life is what you make it. And it's so simple, but it's true. Like, you choose how you direct your life. You choose how you to respond to things. Like you have control. Let's see.
Before you jump into Z's question, we missed Parchukio's earlier. I just want to throw that one in here. How do you all deal with friends who don't see red flags in relationships?
Oh yeah, I saw that question. I was thinking about that one.
That's me, honestly. Like, you want, like the Ariana Grande song, you want to think that they're better than they are. You want to see everyone's potential, not necessarily the reality of who they are right now in this moment. So it's about just taking a step back and being like, are these behaviors that reflect like how I want to be in the long term? Like, are these behaviors affecting me now and what I'm doing now? Because I've talked to people who they want to control like everything that you're doing, and that's get out all the other way, because that's not healthy. But generally try to just be like, never try and tell the person just straight up like this person is toxic, because then you could have the opposite effect and have them like run to the other person and just like kind of double down on the bad decision. But what one of my friends says is just like, listen to that gut instinct. If there's part of you that's telling you something here may not be right, like listen to it. We have intuition for a reason, and oftentimes we're right.
Yeah.
Ditto all of that.
Yeah, I've had some friends where I kind of had to deal with a little bit of that myself, trying to help. Not necessarily like straight up tell them, like you said, it could have the opposite effect. You could find yourself telling them something that they don't want to hear, and then they're just going to come after you for it. But generally, you just try to subtly make the flag that you're trying to point out a little bit more obvious. Just kind of suggest, maybe mentioning things or suggesting things that would help them kind of pick up on it on their own. But they're going to have to figure it out on their own 99% of the time. Like you telling them again may have a reverse effect. I was actually a little bit of one of those people myself. I threw some of my own red flags. Because I had what a lot of people refer to as white knight syndrome. And Ian clearly gets that. And to kind of describe what it is in brief here, white knight syndrome is when a person, typically a dude, goes after a date for the wrong reasons, in the sense that I was looking at girls who had things that I could fix. There's no nice way to put it. I was looking for ways that I could, it was like, oh, I can maybe win you over by helping you with these problems you've told me about, that you've confided in me with, and kind of helping them just like me through the fact that I was willing to be there for them and help them. And I actually had a buddy of mine that did take the bold risk and just pointed it out to me, instead of like trying to go at it subtly. He just flat out told me, he's like, listen, you are white knighting like half of these girls that you've gone after lately, and I just want you to know that like every time you've been getting into relationships lately, or dating these girls or whatever, you're doing this thing where you're coming to me and then telling me about like these problems that they have and how you're going to help them fix them. And so this for me was years ago, but when it kind of got pointed out to me and explained, I took it. I wouldn't say that I was like upset about it so much. It was like that realization, that dawning that it was happening, was like, oh, you're not wrong. And how do I get myself out of that, right? And so his approach was to just tell me straight up, but not everybody's going to react the same way, and you should certainly, you know, like, keep in mind who the person is that you're about to try and let them know that there are things that they should be maybe taking caution on, and then just let them figure it out on their own. But if you're comfortable and close enough with them, like my buddy was with me, it may just be a thing where it's like, hey, thanks for, you know, in the end I was like, thanks for telling me, man. It, you know, I've improved upon myself a lot, and I turned that around for myself so that I wasn't just focused on trying to fix problems all the time. So, you know, but that's what they did for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like I've always been receptive to my friends for whatever they want to tell me or whatever. You know, just for them taking the courage to tell me whatever. Like, I'm grateful for that. There's definitely cases where you kind of have to let people figure things out for themselves, because like, I'm definitely the type to try to ignore red flags for like people that I'm talking to, because I'm just like, oh, but I like them, you know, and that's like the priority. And even if my friends point out the red flags, I'm like, well, like, we'll just see what happens. And in the end, my friends are right, but like, I'm stubborn. I need to see for myself. I need to see where things could go, because I'm very optimistic. But yeah, my own friends, I think, yeah, like, I'll just let them figure out for themselves if they don't want to listen to me, but I'll just give them the courage to just remember that they're great. They're really strong. They can do it without the other person. They can be single. They can still thrive. They have support if they ever need it. And yeah, just try to remind them of all of that as much as possible.
Totally agree.
Okay, any other?
We got Z's question.
Okay. How does one deal with someone whose butterflies never really seem to go away, but they feel like yours have gone away? You don't love them any less, but the whole butterfly thing is not there. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I
actually don't know off the top of my head here. I'm having to think about this one.
That's
Wait,
oh.
oh no, I was like, I need to reread that question because
Yeah, where is it?
Here.
the way it was worded was like, hold on, let me like read this.
Okay, I'll repaste it in the chat. So basically, you still have butterflies for them, but they don't really have butterflies for you anymore. And that's totally a tough one. But I guess it kind of goes back to, like, you can't control how people feel, or you can't make someone love you. So
Is it their butterflies have never gone away, but yours kind of have?
I think
But
it's
you
the
don't love
opposite.
them less?
I think it's supposed to say, hold on, let me. But
I'm so sorry. I will be right back.
there, I think it should be like that.
Theirs haven't gone away, but yours has. Okay.
Oh, did I read that wrong? Theirs haven't gone away.
Less. It's just it's part of the relationship getting that comfortability, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
don't feel that way about that person anymore, but they saw butterflies for you. Is that what you're asking?
No, I think that they're saying it's like you don't love them any less, but like the butterflies aren't there. Like the newness is gone, so it's a little less exciting, but you still care for them.
It's like the honeymoon phase is officially over for one person, but the other person's still in it.
The whole
Mhm.
relationship can't be the butterfly effect. So you love
Yeah.
them for who they are and learn to continue loving them.
Yeah, and I think to Z's question, the way they pose it, right? It's like if you still care about them, you still choose them every single day, right? Like, then I think that's more important than the current feeling that's there. Because I think what Sierra said is like that comfortability piece. Like, you're gonna get into that phase where it's like you both of you, if you were in a monogamous relationship or if like a polyamorous one, right? If you all are just comfortable with each other, then it's like cool. Like that shouldn't change the fact that you all still choose each other and show up for each other in ways that you can every single day.
I think that's part of the relationship maturing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not always going to be like maybe like the physical thing, like in the honeymoon phase is a little bit more, but like you get to that point where that's not like the primary thing, or not even like one of the primary things, and like that's okay. Like for me, like when I really knew like I loved my previous partner was he almost died. He got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and was in the hospital for 3 weeks and lost 30 pounds and almost died, and that was just like holy shit, like how do I feel about potentially not having that person in my life? And that was like one of those moments. It's like the honeymoon phase was over, but it's like still deeply care for that person, and you don't want anything to happen to them, and I think that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to do your best to keep those feelings alive, just those feelings of appreciation, trying to figure out like what are little things you can do to let them know that you care for them.
Yeah.
And
Like-
maybe it's like you trying to do things for them to give yourself those feelings back, like being a good partner, seeing like, I don't know, because if you really care about the person, like their reaction should kind of, I mean, be the reason why you're giving them something or showing appreciation, and maybe that can like rekindle it for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they might have butterflies now, but those eventually could go away too. I think relationships can start with you like feeling like you're crazy in love, but I think that can die down and you just have to like love each other. You might not be in love anymore. Like what is in love anyways, you know? I think that's just like what we call like the passion and like butterflies that we feel. But like that can go away. We lost Ian.
Serotonin rush.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like the emotions that we have in our head. But in the end, you want to grow to just like love them, appreciate them, be there for them, support them. Like, you know, those couples that have been married for 50 years, like, do they still see see butterflies, like, or feel butterflies? Like, who knows? But they've grown to love and care for each other, like a family
Yep.
member. But yeah.
Oh.
Does
Good.
anyone
Oh,
else
there he is.
have any questions or anything else that you want us to cover? Where did Ian go?
Just pop back in. I think
Oh,
maybe something's going on with his Discord.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's able to pop back in. Yeah. Any other questions from chat right now as far as the topics we've discussed so far and such?
I think cover all the questions. Oh, I'm
Uh-oh.
having issues with my other
No.
account.
It's all right, man.
Do you all know how much I love you? Aw, we love you too, Colette. I'm not a very butterfly feeling type of person. She's opposite. So sometimes it's hard to not doubt yourself, thinking, do I love them less because I don't feel lovey-dovey 24/7 as they do? No, not at all. Like we're all different. We all have different ways of showing that or showing love or dealing with emotions, but that doesn't mean like anything's wrong with you. But
Mhm.
welcome back.
I was gonna say I just
was
saw
like-
him. Okay. Ooh.
But yeah, everyone in chat, like if you guys are watching or listening, just remember, like if you're single or whatever, like you're still special, you're still great. you're not boring. Just because a relationship didn't work out doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. it could be the other person, it could just be circumstances. Some relationships like just might not be meant to be. I think there's like that saying where like you meet people for different reasons, and maybe like someone was only meant to come into your life to be there for a certain amount of time and to like teach you lessons and help you grow, but you know, maybe there's just a point where they serve their purpose and you guys just aren't meant to be together anymore. You know, life isn't like a fairy tale where you got to live happily ever after. You just kind of go with it and just keep striving for better. If you feel like you're boring, then you could change that. If you feel like you don't do anything and you just like lay around, like you could change that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all are special.
Every single person in chat, every single person in this video conference right now, and all of the people out there, like, y'all matter. Everybody's important, and everybody is worth the time. You gotta take care of yourselves. I can't stress enough that one of the hardest things in life right now is feeling like you're worthless when you're not, especially this year. Yes, Keezus, even you, sir. Everybody is dealing with the toughest year we've ever encountered. Like, won't go into all of it, but you know what we got going on. I'm sure y'all have seen the news. I'm sure y'all have perused
been
Reddit.
awake
Like, you're
for
gonna find
3
out.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've been awake.
Like if you have a pulse and you've seen anything social media wise, you are probably up to date. And there's just, you know, you gotta keep looking up in these times where things are harder than they seem. And actually, there was one thing that I just remembered that I kind of want to share in reference to that as well. Give me just a second here. I got it right here. There was a wonderful. I think it's just a quote. I don't know if it's necessarily a poem, but this is just kind of one of the last things that I've got on my mind right now that I'll mention is uh, is this. It's by somebody known as Leslie Dwight. I actually don't know who that is. Forgive me if you do, and I don't. But it says, "What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all."
I love that.
Every single time I've seen that, I'm just like, yeah, honestly, like, this is the time to band together and be there for each other and help each other grow and feel better about themselves and not leave anybody behind.
For sure. Definitely. This is definitely like a crazy year, but definitely has a lot of learning experiences.
For me, Corona has been a true test of confidence in myself and that self-growth. Just because my ex finally did reach out almost after a year of us not talking together in the middle of Corona, trying to say that, you know, he'd been reflecting on everything and not treating me right and all that stuff. And you know, I could have just slipped and gone back into like what was comfortable and what was known and things like that. But I think this is like, no, we have to test ourselves and know that we deserve better, not just like what we think we deserve or what we're comfortable with knowing. And I think that goes for like everybody, these tough times, like just doubling down on your friendships. If you're like not wanting to date, or if you are, just knowing you don't have to jump into something just because times are scary or lonely. Because I feel like everyone's kind of in this quarantine, like pandemic mentality, where it's like, okay, grab whoever's closest to you and just like buckle down because you want to have somebody to be with because it's scary. Yeah, that can be friends. Like, don't
And
be the
there's us
toxic.
introverts that are like, quarantine,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's me. I'm just like, okay, I'll do the same thing, but at home.
I'm proud
Still,
of
we're
I'm
good.
proud of you, Colette. I mean, sorry, Sierra. Proud of
Sierra.
Sierra.
I
Okay.
was like, wait a minute. Check chat.
It's
Oh,
like, what did
wait.
Colette say?
But yeah, no, I'm proud of you that you stayed strong and didn't let yourself slip back
Oh, thank
into a
you.
relationship that wasn't healthy for you.
You know,
And
it was tempting, but like, I love myself more than that.
good. And you said,
Big brain.
you said earlier
Brain.
you started getting into some creative stuff after the separation.
Oh yeah, like it was just like, wow, I have so much more time and like physical space and things like that. And I just kind of realized I had stopped myself from doing things I enjoyed because of this person. Not necessarily because they had asked me, it was just like that's how things went. And not having somebody else in my space is like, okay, I can play guitar at like any time of day without having to worry about waking him up, or I can have an art project going in the living room that, you know, if it's not bothering me, it's not bothering anybody else. And just like those kinds of things. Just really getting to do what I want to do without consideration of other people, which sounds like bad,
No,
but
no.
I mean, it's like, it's my own life. It's me creating and doing my thing, and it's nice just being able to do like kind of whatever you want, like truly.
Yeah. I've seen some of your like little Instagram videos and they're so cute, and I mean,
Oh,
who
thank
knows
you.
if you would have done that if you were with someone else.
Absolutely not. That's the answer. I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
if you know, I hadn't made those choices.
Yeah, being single
Sure.
definitely does like let your creativity shine. For me, I'm not like very artistic, but I guess I made my gaming Instagram just to kind of like find people to connect with, and then just kind of like played around with taking photos and stuff. That was kind of like a project for me, and then now I've just been busy streaming. Um, but I mean, yeah, this podcast is pretty new, but it'd be cool if we just kept it up. So that'd be definitely like something great that I didn't have before. That definitely came from, the separation. What about you guys? Like, have you been working on any creative projects? Ian, you do a podcast too, right? Or you want to?
Yeah, so I am working on a podcast over my Twitch stream. So it's all things around like equity, all things around higher education, because that's where I work. Hip hop, creativity, like music, like nerdy, geeky things, everything in between. So I'm slowly working on that. I'm trying to get around the copyright music stuff right now because like that is another challenge itself, trying to find non-copyrighted music that I actually like. Also, I'm missing more like my DJ, my music. Like I think just for me, like I learned through it's Sunday, I can't even talk. um, but yeah, like definitely doing more of a podcast. Investing more in my DJ stuff. Planes, I will not do a live set on Twitch because I'm probably gonna get copyrighted for that.
Yeah, I feel you.
So I know we talked about that for a little bit, and you're like, you have to do this. So I was like, no, I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Yeah, I remember that
Um,
came out.
yeah, and then yeah, what else am I doing? I'm not doing a lot other than like honestly like playing a lot of games, like investing in my own like physical wellness too. Like I have like a spin bike, so I do that like every like other day or so. At least I try to. I'm actually trying to read more. I feel like now that I have more time at home, like I can actually read a book and just enjoy it rather than like read for work or like anything else.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, now I feel like I'm boring.
No,
No,
you
not
just
But
like
you're
not.
not.
mentioned a
But
lot
you're
of
not.
different things. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I was like, man, like I feel like I'm hella boring just like doing all this stuff by myself.
Oh, see,
No.
I used to read a ton, and then my last relationship was one of those ones where she didn't like reading at all, and so I never found time to read because whenever I wanted to sit down and read, she wanted to do something else. So one of the first things I did was started reading again, and actually with Liz here and Colette and a good chunk of her Discord, we all started a book club where we started reading H.P. Lovecraft and his Tales of Horror. But just kind of finding the time to do some of those fun things. Like I'm not showing off anything, so nobody get excited here. But I did buy a sketchbook and started actually like drawing again, which is something I haven't done in a very long time. And um, but definitely more games to be played. I haven't drawn anything new since the last thing you saw, Colette. But yeah, having more time to actually do like the Twitch streaming and doing other catch up items on things that you just didn't get to before. All right, fine, calm down. It's still the same drawing and it's not that great. I'm an imitator. I draw what I see, and so I picked a Pokemon that happened to be in the shape of a sword. All right, here you go.
Oh.
You feel better? It's a Pokemon called Honedge, and this is my first sketch in probably, I don't know, at least 7 years. So,
When I was a kid,
um,
I used to watch Pokemon and then I would pause it and I would draw the Pokemon that like was on the screen.
that's
Uh-oh.
awesome. Did you do it like during the like Guess Who?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't maybe I think so, or just during like a scene where a Pokemon was on there. If it was like a cool image, but yeah, I definitely did that. Lovecraft. I love.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate the positive feedback.
Yeah, I will say this though too. For one thing I forgot to mention is like now on my Instagram, what I do from time to time is actually like I'll do like a listening session. So it's like I'll play like random records from my box and just like stuff that I like listening to, because I found that like if I could put people onto new music, like I will, especially stuff that's like really obscure from like the 1980s and 1990s that were just limited presses. So like if you follow me on Instagram, like I'll do like just live listening sessions to records that I thoroughly enjoy and share with folks. Because you can't, some music you can't even find on like Spotify, iTunes, that just is only in vinyl, really. So I also do that too, kind of just has like my other like one for me just to enjoy the music, and two just to share that with other folks too.
That's awesome. Like Nettie said, you're cultured. You're cultured.
I don't know about cultured, but like I am a music aficionado. I do have a vinyl spending habit, or vinyl
I'm
buying
so
habit.
jealous. So
Not
jealous.
planes, no, don't be jealous, because man, the most expensive record I've bought so far is like roughly around $100.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I've seen most vinyls these days are like 30 plus. So
Yeah, what else? I've tried to. There's a couple of things that I might have never done before if I was still in my relationship. Like I tried stand up paddleboarding a couple times. It definitely fell a lot in the water. It's actually not as easy as it looks. It's like
Yeah.
very hard to keep the balance, but once you fall in, it's a lot easier to like get back up and just try again and stand up. Um, I joined, like I never was a sports person, so I never played any sports in school or anything. But I joined my company's softball team, so that was like exciting for me. Because probably would have never tried doing that. Uh-oh, where'd Sierra
that
go
must have
now?
been fun. Uh-oh.
Okay. But I did that last year.
It's gonna burst. Too much coffee, too much water.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh, I feel you.
But yeah.
Yeah, I had to. Or go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just finishing up. But yeah, I don't think I would have done that if I was still in a relationship. I'm just more motivated
Yeah.
to try new things.
I feel you. I had to shut my blinds there, which is why I turned off my camera, because like my kids from the neighborhood were like right behind me. I was like, yeah, don't need y'all. They need to see anything in here.
Um, Yeah, one of the things that like one of the freedoms that were kind of opened up with becoming single again too was knowing that you could try those new things, like you were saying, Liz, like being able to go out and just do new experiences, if it's like going out and kayaking or canoeing or camping, getting outside if you're an outside kind of person. I've also personally been looking forward to the fact that once pandemic is over with, whenever that may be, traveling more, being able to go places that I've never been. Because I personally have, the farthest I've gone east is Minnesota, and that's my dad's parents lived there, and that was when I was, I don't know, 12 years old, right? So um, now, like, for the last 15 years of my life, I've been living in the Pacific Northwest here, and I've never gone anywhere else. So it's like knowing that one day I'm going to get to roll up to Canada, and I don't have to worry about, you know, the whether or not I have a significant other that um, may not be able to go with me or something like that. Now I just know that it's like once I get this planned, I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to go have fun checking out places like Canada, Japan's on my list, New Zealand's on my list, Australia. There's a whole lot of opportunity that you can take advantage of when you get to be independent. And New York, yeah, I'd love to check out. I'd love to check out New York at some point. But it opens up the door to a lot of different new hobbies or just things that you can try doing, and that's really important, that you take advantage of it while you can, and find somebody that can, if you are searching and end up finding somebody along the way, make sure that they're the kind of person that's going to want to do those kinds of things with you. Um, and then there was actually one more point I wanted to make real quick, and that is that a lot of this sounds like selfishness, right? When you think about self-care and doing things for yourself, to better yourself and everything, it sounds kind of like you're being selfish. And I wanted to just kind of mention this to reassure everybody out there that the only bad kind of selfishness is the kind of selfishness where you are making everything about yourself and disregarding everybody else around you. So, as long as the type of self-care that you're doing is flexible, you don't want to come off like the kind of person that's, saying everybody else is less important, right? And so I just wanted to kind of mention that as a thing, is like, a lot of what we're saying right now may seem that way, may seem like you're putting yourself above another person, or friend or family member, but in reality, like, you're not, unless you are being kind of crappy about it and being like, no, this is all about me now, right? Just remember that this is an important part of things that you got to go through, and to not, let yourself feel like what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Only have the one
So-
life to live. As long as you're not being toxic to other people, if you're not like accepting your friends constantly doing stuff for you or always being there for you and you're not giving the same in return, yeah, there's nothing wrong about like putting yourself first when you need to.
Care's not selfish.
Yeah, you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, planes. If you want to plan a Canada trip, I'm on the way. So let me know.
I will. I absolutely will. Vancouver was the first place I wanted to go, and then the one over on the east side,
Toronto.
probably. Yeah, Toronto. I have heard about Toronto and thought it would be kind of cool to visit that place as well. I can't remember where Cletus is at, but I know he's in that general area too, because he's East Coast time. So, anyways, just yeah, it'd be fun.
That'll be awesome. Yeah. Everyone in chat, like, think about your goals and what you guys want to do. If you're single in a relationship, like, take advantage of your free time. Do things that you think are fun.
Definitely.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else to add?
Any more questions? Anybody else have anything they want to add? Whichever direction I need to be pointing right now. I did it! Yes! I had to wait for the delay to catch up to know if I got that right. I unfortunately can't think of anything else. I think we covered quite a bit.
Everyone plug in their socials. Oh, Nettie, you mentioned a point about highlighting the stream, which I will highlight, but also Plains is going to turn all of these, this one and the previous one and any future one, possibly into an audio file that we can hopefully upload
Yes.
to like Apple Podcasts or was it Spotify? Is that what you said?
Yes, Spotify is going to be one of the ones that I'm going to go for, as well as Apple Podcasts and potentially whichever one Google does. I haven't messed with their platform too much, but they have their own as well. So you can expect to see in the next, I would say, month or so that we'll have the first episode, which was about. Remind me. I've only listened to it a dozen times and I can't remember right now because I'm thinking about it. And but anyways, the first episode will go up, and then the second episode, this one being embracing being single, will also probably go live around the same time.
Okay. The first one was just pretty much general positivity.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So that's
And of course, I'll link all of it.
Okay. Yes. Plug in your socials, please.
Shameless
we
plug.
have my co-host Planeswanderer. His Twitch is twitch.tv/Planeswanderer. He's on Twitter at Planeswalking and Instagram at Planeswander. Sierra is Sierra Shares on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Just Soulful Ian is also on all the different platforms, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter as Just Soulful. So please follow them, check them out, show them some support, and yeah. But thank you so much for everyone in chat for contributing, sending in questions, sending in your own stories and thoughts and advice and everything. It was great. This podcast went really well. But thank you for everyone for being here. And thank you, Plans. Thank you, Sierra. Thank you, Ian, for being here and be on my podcast. Appreciate all
Most
of you
definitely.
guys. But yeah.
Most definitely.
Okay, everyone. Oh, we will raid. I will go find someone to raid.